Yo, how are you doing, folks? Welcome to episode 32 of the Simpa Life Podcast, featuring me, Simpa, and my cohort and co-host, Mr. Macca. How are you today, sir?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm just realising we were pure relaxed there, and I've forgot to recheck that I've done all my checks. So everything's working. I see some green bars flying around when you're speaking, and there's a nice little red recording thing, so I think we're okay. No, I'm joking. I did do a test previous. I'm doing fine, man. Not too bad. This should be a very different and interesting one, I think. Be nice. It's nice to have a fucking athlete on the show.
It is, yes. As Marcus just said, folks, we have our first athlete on this podcast. We're only 32 episodes in, so it's taking us a little bit of time. This is also a swap cast because I've already appeared on this gentleman's podcast already a couple of weeks ago. Had a really good time. We literally started talking, and then about 2 hours 45, we kind of looked up and went, shit, I need to be somewhere. So it was a really great experience. I'll run through a little bit of housekeeping, so I'll give you guys a brief introduction. Macca will, of course, be pulling up the pages sort of as we go throughout the recording for the visual side of things, so you can see his pages, as we're saying. Tonight's guest is our first athlete, as Macca has already said. He is an MMA fighter and the host of the Chin Spins Chats podcast. God, that's a mouthful, is it? Chin Spins Chats podcast. Also known as the Sunderland Strangler, Mr. Cal Pacino. Thank you for joining us. How are you today, sir?
I'm awesome, Simpa, mate. Thank you for getting us on as well, lads. I really appreciate it. Everything's good, mate.
Excellent. So could you give our listeners and viewers a little bit more of a sort of an insight as to sort of who you are and why you're here today?
Yeah, I'm a mixed martial artist. I'm a pro MMA fighter from Sunderland. Competed in a few different organisations all over the world, and currently doing my own podcast as well. And that's pretty much all I am, really. I like occasional smoke as well, so that helps with this podcast. But now, for the most part, just an athlete who tries to just get busy and fight. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. You've also got a keen interest and hobby in bikes, I see, as well.
Anything dangerous, really, mate, to be honest. I always have that.
So when you say bikes, do you mean motorcycles, or do you mean actual bicycles?
Well, both.
Both.
I've had a few good downhill mountain bikes. I've just sold one of my motocross bikes, but I've just bought a Harley Davidson as well. I've got a nice 1200 Sportster there, so I've just ripped my BM off there. So I'm just in the process of trying to get my BM. It wasn't fully written off, so they've kind of managed to save it, but it's costing an absolute fortune. So I've had to wait for months to get it fixed through the insurance. In the time of having that, then smashed my van up, and then it was a hilarious story. Actually, it was involving with me Harley as well, because I was taking my Harley to go and get some work done. Needed a new carb and some new gasket seals putting on it, and I drove it all the way to Middlesbrough from the guy I bought it off to put all the new stuff on. And I had a tight schedule, so I was driving in my van, and my van's it's like I always say, it's like an eggshell with a rocket on the back. It's been remapped, and it's completely empty, so it's an absolute flying machine. So I was tanking it through to Middlesbrough, but it was like torrential rain, and I was flying back. And as I was coming back into Sunderland, I got a phone call off the guy, and he's like, "Oh, you've not dropped the bike's key off." So I was like, "Shit!" I turned around, flew all the way back to Middlesbrough, and I'm driving back to Sunderland, coming off a slip road. My girlfriend had a hair appointment; she hadn't done nothing for months, so I was like, "I need to be back, or I'll be in the slammer." So I'm flying down, and my van just planed off the road and just smashed over a roundabout.
God.
Blew the front wheel up completely. So I was like, shit. And I've got can I swear on these? Sorry, by the way.
Of course.
Tanks it off the roundabout. I was like, fuck. I need to get to as close to home as I can with this tyre before it's completely off the rim. So I'm like, driving down the road, and it's like this wheel, and I'm looking out the window, and I'm like, oh god, I can see the tyre coming up now. It's getting pretty bad. Wheel arch, the plastic wheel arch comes flying off. So I'm like, shit, I probably should stop now. Working on the side of the road, they're shouting at us, and I'm like looking out the other wheel, completely ignoring them flying along. And it got to the point where it was that bad, I just had to pull off the road. I waited a while, waited till it was a bit quieter, ran back up however many meters back up the road, got me wheel arch, flung it in the back of the van, hacksawed the remainder of the tyre off. I'll send you the photos, it's hilarious. And I just rimmed it. I just drove it on the rim.
You drove it on the rim?
Drove it on the rim.
Sparks flying everywhere.
Fucking hell.
Ridiculous. Honestly, I felt like there was cars coming down the other road, shouting, pointing out the way. I was just flagging them off completely. That was the right mess.
Fucking hell.
You just have to adopt a sort of a stoic sort of 1,000-yard stare. It's like, I fucking know, mate. I fucking know.
was like a horse, and a police horse has got the blinders on it.
Fucking
wow.
So the question is, did you get back in time for a hair appointment?
She ended up getting her sister to come over. Caused absolute hell on. There was no way I was getting. I was like 5 hours late to me, but her sister came and sorted the job.
Wow. Oh, fucking aquaplane is one of those things that sometimes it almost doesn't matter the speed. That if it takes you, it takes you. That if you are turning on that surface, and it just and it's that passenger mentality. You just kind of have to go. Right, I'm either going to brace and protect myself for the crash, or there's a small window where I can maybe recover this. But 9 times out of 10, if you go too hard, you're going to end up 20 times worse. You're going to end up flipping and rolling. So it's just kind of like, I got my seat, and it's slow as well. I've crashed twice with aquaplaning, and it is boring. He's like, and you're like, get your phone out and just like, I'm crashing, updating your Facebook status and shit. Just waiting for the impact.
If I hadn't just smashed my BM up that bad about a month or two prior, I would have probably been a bit more of a sweat on. But because that one was that bad, it was like a grenade gone off under my car on it last time. Yeah. With the van, I knew there was no lamppost. I missed the lamppost. I knew it was just going to hit the curb. So I was just like, fuck it. Chuck it now. It's just like, right, I'm off.
Oh, fucking hell. No, so evidently anything dangerous.
Yeah, pretty much. Hair appointments, fuck it.
I think that's a common thing that I think that's quite a male or a testosterone thing, because much more in my youth than I suppose these days. I had some very fucking close calls that kind of made me go, I'm not going to do this for a while. I actually tried to surrender my license to a cop once when they were doing an investigation in an interview. And he showed me the pictures. The first time I'd seen him for about 4 months, and I'd been hospitalized. I'd broke my collarbone, damaged my ribs, ripped out my lip piercing, and proper blew up my face, broke my nose. And it was the first time I'd seen the pictures, and he kind of shown us it, and I was a hazy memory of it. And I just got this secondary shock. And I kind of break down. I'm like, take my license. The cop, bless him, was literally just like, you do not want to do this. Do not do. I'm going to put your license here. I'm going to walk out of the room. But 5 minutes. If you still want to give me it, I'll take it. And I'm so glad he didn't, because I would have had to go through another test because I would have voluntarily surrendered. So then would have had to get retested and everything. And I didn't drive for 5-6 years afterwards. And then when I got in that car again that next time, it was there. Not like a PTSD thing, but just like a kind of respect thing of going it's my foot that's going to kill me. Do you know what I mean? It's my choice. So I need to be a bit more mindful of it.
Now, it's funny you should mention that, because, I mean, I may have incorrectly sort of used that comparison previous when I was describing something similar. So I used to do this, prior to COVID, I used to do this thing called adventure racing in Ireland, right? Which is basically a triathlon across mountains. I've mentioned it before. Yeah. And it's usually some fucking crazy distance, like 60 or 70k. Now, it just sounds worse than it is. The majority of it's on the bike, and if you've got to go up, you have to come down. So it's it balances itself out. Like, it's tough. It's a nice challenge. But I remember we had to do one in the Black Valley in Kerry, which is like something out of fucking Lord of the Rings, like just like mountains all over the place. It's beautiful up there, and I'd come down after the first mountain, and it was a run, and I was feeling really, really good, and I was sort of hitting a nice bit of sort of flow, that kind of way, and my breathing was right and whatever. I got onto the bike and I just started fucking powering it. I was feeling fucking really, really good, and I started this ascent all the way up. And I was thinking, okay, I've still got loads to go, right? Not thinking in my head going, it probably undulates. It probably comes back down before I go back up or whatever, And I was flying along, and I saw this guy with a red flag, and he was saying to me, he was like, slow down. And I was like, I'm feeling fucking grand. Will you stop? I'm fucking powering it. You know what I mean? I'm catching everybody. What are you talking about? I didn't realize that the red flag and what he was warning me of was a really steep descent into not one hairpin, 2 hairpin turns, which I completely fucking misjudged. Came in so fucking hot, like a good, I don't know what the speed was. Let's just say for pure exaggerated state that it was over 60 or 70. It probably wasn't. But I just completely got the curve wrong and end up just ditching the bike. I'm going into that fucking ditch. There's nothing I can do. Wow. So over the handlebars. and I literally cracked my head off of the side of a rock, rolled down half the mountain or whatever. Got up, I'm completely blacked out. I had a massive I'm having one right now. Jesus, concussion. Right? Where, I just saw your man who was waving the flag. He was like, you all right? Are you all right? And I was like, I'm grand. I'm getting back on the bike. I'm fine. He's like, do you know what day it is? I was like, no. I hadn't the fucking clue. He's like, why are you here? He's like, I'm racing. He's like, who are you racing? I couldn't answer any of those questions. My helmet was fucking cracked all over the place. I had to go to the hospital. But that led me to obviously describing that, it was a sort of a PTSD after that. I didn't want to get onto the fucking bike. Because I used to cycle to work, right? On this really narrow road. And, all you mad fucking petrol heads are fucking cutting us up at every opportunity. And I'm thinking, I can't face that. I can't fucking face it, man. And I had to process it for fucking ages. It took me maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and I was losing sleep over the fact that I was getting really annoyed with myself. Do you know that kind of way? Are you gone? Am I just talking to myself? Oh, shit.
Yeah, we were just saying that it looked like you were about to make a serious point because you paused like...
I was. And I think I've just let it roll, right? So the point I was trying to make, again, with the story is that you must have felt like that at some point, Cal. Me being an MMA fighter, it's rough fucking going, man. Do you know that kind of way? I mean...
Aye.
Do you think cannabis helps that process? That's what I was leading into.
See, it's a good take, because I'm on the side of the fence, because I've always smoked weed, I'm on the side of the fence that it should be legal, and people who have said weed is a PED, performance enhancing drug, and I never agreed with it. But then if you look at it that way, like seeing it that way, and then if you see it, would that help in that situation? And then if my answer to that question would be yes, then I guess in that sense, if that's helping me to be able to perform and get over past experiences in MMA, then I guess on that side of the fence, you could maybe see it was helping us if it's helping us perform. So that kind of changes the kind of aspect of it. But in my opinion, yeah, I think it would help. I feel like however you use it. I mean, when I'm in a fight camp, so see if it's 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 7 weeks, whatever, 6 weeks, whatever fight camp it is, I would normally stop for that whole time. Normally I smoke weed every day, and if I'm in a fight camp, I would stop, and then after the fight, I'd have a big smoke, whatever. But a lot of my friends and a lot of my training partners would smoke after maybe, say, Saturday was when you'd have your hard sparring in the fight camp, like you'd spar through the week, but Saturday when you do your pro MMA rounds, and they would have a smoke after that. A lot of my friends who pro MMA fighters will not even have that, and they'll smoke all the way through. A lot of them, like, I smoked some Rhino meds as well. I don't know if you saw them. It's like a THC vape. It's a high quality THC vape. It's like 98% THC. It's really, really strong. You only need a couple off and I'm blazed all day. You know what I mean? It feels like I'm driving on a cloud. But and that's bang on. I could probably get away with doing that if I can, but just for peace of mind, I normally stop. But in that situation, I guess it probably would help. I feel like it would. I mean, I remember the worst you're saying about the PTSD kind of situation about it. They obviously it's a really terrifying and kind of the euphoric thing at the same time as having a fight. It's a bit like a dream. It's like terrifying and scary, and it's fun and exciting, and it's all emotions in one. Sometimes you're really high, and sometimes you're really low, and like, I guess obviously to speak in the PTSD kind of position, it would be like before I fought Nathan Grayson, and I was going into that fight with a concussion anyway from sparring a couple of weeks prior, and I was injured as well. And I knew the guy I was fighting was a really explosive, heavy-handed guy, like a knockout guy. He had a lot of good knockouts on his resume. So going into that fight was a really big obstacle to overcome. Backstage I remember, and I had a horrendous weight cut as well. I took loads of water off my brain that I shouldn't have been, too much that I should have done, and it was that affected us mentally. So going into that, and then obviously the fight, the winter weight did as well, and I took a barrage of damage, and I won in the first round, but it was one of them. It was in the trenches, and I got messed up pretty bad, and I ended up choking him, got a nice submission reversal, and choked him. But it was a bad fight for like damage to me. You know what I mean? And coming out of that one was a bad one because I had a bad concussion after that. You know, so it's a weird one. But obviously after that fighting, you don't have smoked a shitload of weed, so probably did have. Do you smoke as well, Matt? Do you indulge? Or?
Fucking hell, yeah. Just, I've got old habits, mate, where fucking no, because the reason I asked basically is, sorry, I was going to tangent there, but let's keep on track because this is quite interesting. First and foremost, obviously there's something to be said about sort of longevity for athletes as well. I wouldn't necessarily agree that it would necessary again. It would be a performance enhancing substance if in that regard, that kind of way, because it increases the amount. Well, it can help, say, fight against all of the concussions. Same for like rugby and all of even footballers with the head in the fucking ball and whatnot. Do you know what I mean? But the other thing is, I was just going to say,
it's not making you stronger. Yeah, it's not making you perform better. It's not getting you a better gas tank and this and that.
Does it though? Because here's the thing. For me, sometimes no, because I'll go out, right, and when you fight with that sort of. You probably don't because you're a professional, but I'm trying to juggle exercise almost every day, and sometimes I've had a shit day and whatever. I'm just sort of going, oh, it's fucking raining out there, it's cold, I could go out for a run, I'm supposed to go out for a run today, but will I fucking do it? Sometimes I'll have a rollie and then I just go, fuck it, I just go out. And then halfway through, I'm not really thinking about the fact that I'm fucking cold. It's awful out here. Do you know that kind of way? And I'm not thinking about my gas tank. So I actually end up usually running a couple of extra K or something like that. I know, going back to sorry, the UFC boys. What are they called? The big stoner lads.
Diaz brothers.
The Diaz brothers.
Diaz and Nick Diaz.
Yeah, I seen them on the bags, man. After hitting it, and he's just going for about fucking. He's having his fucking dinner and everything while he's fucking doing his taxes and shit. Do you know what I mean? The tank on him. Oh.
I think it's subjective though, because I think if you're on that mindset of like, oh, I'm feeling tired today, blah blah blah, right, and then you have a joint and you're like zoned into your own mind, you're like, fuck this, I'm going to just get after it. But I think in the same sense, that's probably just because of the person you are as well, like yourself. Like if you see your guy who doesn't really do much anyway, like say
my internet went again and I missed every single thing, and I'm fucking pure invested into this shit now, so I'm getting annoyed. I'm sorry, Simpa, please continue your thought.
I have to go try and find it again.
Amplifier.
Yeah. So cannabis is then an mood amplifier.
Yeah.
But it kind of is like a like a magic, not a magic key. What do you call it? Like a universal key, so it can unlock each thing. So it kind of puts you into a setting where you can then self-motivate, or you can then do the whole Bill Hicks thing and realize that the shit that you normally do isn't worth doing, so you're not going to do it. But each to their own. It's not to say that somebody who's active will then always smoke and always be active. There is that subjectivity, that individual sort of almost a quantum relationship to it. There's far more than just this chemical profile of a plant plus you is going to equal this result. There are so many other variables. And as you were saying before about performance enhancing with cannabis is quite interesting, because obviously, PTSD is a big one for impact sports. Even for high-end professional sports, where you get yourself into such a, not warlike, but you're getting into a primal state, a focused state of mind, that means that any sort of psychological, even as well as physical damage that you can kind of take to it can be quite scarring. So I was just wondering that you say you have a smoke sort of after fights and stuff. Do you find that it helps sort of work through the fight afterwards? Do you sort of, instead of it sort of being almost like flashbacky, you kind of sit with it and go, and you can be more analytical rather than it just happening to you?
100%, because and exactly same as after a fight, and I like it the same way I like to do it when I like to watch fights. I watch a lot of fight footage all the time, even if I haven't got a fight planned, nothing like that. It's just something I do. It's something I've always done, even when I haven't been fighting or whatever. I've always just studied fights. Even back in the boxing days when I was a kid, I'd always study bits of fights, you know what I mean? And I feel like when I smoke, it helps. It's just I'm just more present. I like to and just zone in on it. I'm not like all the other things in the back of my mind because I'm a million mile an hour constantly. I can kind of shut that out a bit, and especially after a fight, it's to see in most fight nights, I'll have a fight and I'll sit there, and if I haven't smoked after a fight, well, I'm up all to see if I haven't smoked after a fight. Even when I have, I'm up all night anyway, but it's a different up all night. Normally, I'm up all night and anxiety and the thoughts, or if I've not done something I've wanted to do, or say I've lost, like, that's when you're always thinking everything, like, I should have done this, and hindsight and this and that. But when I've chilled out and I've had a smoke after it, and really just take it in and try and be a bit more present in the moment, you know what I mean? And try and like remember the feelings, remember the nerves, remember just to try and take it in a bit, because you have so much of a long period of time. So say you find out about the fight, or you've got a long time leading up, or if it's a short notice one, whatever, that's still, as soon as you know whether you started your camp or you haven't, that's pretty much all you're thinking about the whole time. Your ups and downs, you're nervous, you have a good day in the gym, you're feeling great, you have a shit day in the gym, you're feeling worse, you're thinking about your fighting. It's a constant thing that just overwhelms your mind. And then when the fight comes, and then it's a whole massive momentous occasion, it's like, oh, this whole fight, everyone's watching this and that, and the nerves and the massive thing of the risk and all that. And then you get in and do it. And once it's done, even like the biggest fights I've had, even once it's done, it's like instantly it's gone. And it's like,
crash.
You just feel you kind of lost after. Yeah. And I feel like when you have a smoke, you kind of get a better sense of being able to kind of absorb that memory, if you or a kind of window of time, and kind of just sponge it in a bit more. You know what I mean? It's a weird process, but smoking weed after definitely makes it more enjoyable.
Here's one for you. So sorry, Simpa. Just how about the opposite then? So if you're trying to gear yourself up to target your opponent as the be all and end all, that's what you're completely focused. You're fucking, I don't know how to actually to verbalize it, but you have this concentrated aggression towards your opponent. Well, most fighters probably do. Would you say, now this is just a pure hypothetical, if you were smoking or consuming in the 6 weeks prior, would you feel a small bit more
dialed in?
Not dialed in. No. Empathy. Yeah, empathy towards your opponent, and that may hinder your camp. See, because you're thinking, fuck.
I think maybe it could, if you were kind of like, maybe if it was your first rodeo, your first couple, if that was your kind of way, you would not like incline that way. But I feel like once you've had, especially as many as I have, I mean, I was having my first fight when being 12-year-old, and once you realise the more you have and the more, whichever way you feel, he's coming and he's coming to hurt you. And that kind of gets rid of that side of it. But the thing is with me, this is what I was going to speak to you about earlier. If I've been stoned, anytime I've been stoned and then I've exercised, so say I've been for a run, prime example. I've been stoned and then I've went for a run. When I'm on the run, as you said earlier, Macca, you can kind of just hit that different frequency of like shutting it out, and it's like without even thinking, you're on that next plane. But for me personally, in camp, if 9 times out of 10, especially because I don't smoke any tobacco either, so when I smoke a blunt, so normally I'm butchered. And then so this is every other day. In a camp, if I do that, so I've tried, and if I've just had a couple of blasts and then let it go out and chill, and then I go and grapple, I'm kind of relaxed and flow state and train nice and push myself nice. But if I get blazed before I train, I'm the opposite, me. I'm the opposite of the Diaz brothers and stuff like that. If I train, I just want to sit and watch and talk and just get in that kind of in their learning mind frame, not so much of doing so much physicality, but more so talking and breaking things down and explaining it. So for me, I think it would be a bit of a hindrance. If I get blazed, I'm I'm off the side of the mat and I'm watching the session. You know what I mean?
Oh man, it's so interesting. I mean, I was in I was on the east coast of America in, I can't figure out the years. I'm gonna say 2019. Feels like 2019. And I met the Canon medic. Shout out the Canon medic on Instagram, and he is one of the medics for the MMA High Rollers fight, which is where they travel around in America and they compete for, I think it's a ½ pound of weed. And before each fight, the fighters sit on the mat and they smoke together. And looking at the roadshow, for lack of a way of describing it, that they do with this. They sort of travel around, and the ethos attached to it, and the mentality of the fighters. It's a lot less what people who don't know what MMA or boxing or organized physical sports are. They just assume that it's violent men being violent and just getting absolutely as angry as they can and smashing shit out of each other. They don't quite understand that sort of image. And it's wonderful that then that kind of exists on that spectrum, that these guys become, I don't know, I don't want to use a comparison of wrestling, because that's not what I mean. It's not the showmanship of it, but it's the camaraderie. Do you know what I mean?
Lifestyle,
so they respect each other. So it's not a case of, oh, I'm going to knock him because I want to knock him. It's like, all right, now get him this time. And you train and you smoke together, and you have that friendship and that connection. And I think that makes for a better show, for a better fight, because then it isn't just a case of that you get lost to anger, or you get caught up in the mudslinging and the bullshit of the marketing and the promo. You're actually two athletes competing to see who is best on that day.
I think that's a great thing about jiu-jitsu. You know, I mean, it's like jiu-jitsu in the fighting community, it's for the most part, and obviously some people will disagree with me, but for the most part, jiu-jitsu athletes for me, and all my friends, I mean, I'm the biggest weirdo ever, most kooky person ever to most people, you know what I mean? But jiu-jitsu guys are normally like the nerdiest guys ever, and just normally it's just a lifestyle, you know, and it's cool, and that's why I love jiu-jitsu so much. It's the same as way as I do with skateboarding. You know, I skateboarded for years, and just being involved in that kind of free lifestyle of just not judging people, just doing your own shit and just getting on with it. And jiu-jitsu is a lot like that. So, and I feel like for the high rollers and stuff like that, like it's just, they're there for the same reason, and that's why I respect jiu-jitsu so much. I mean, when you fight, say for instance you have an MMA fight, and say you win a fight and it's amazing, and you lose a fight, it seems to be like the whole, especially in MMA, it's like it's like the biggest change of like everything ever. You know, you lose and it's like you're right back down. Whereas in jiu-jitsu, you're competing every other weekend. So if you beat one good guy one week, it's, oh cool, he's just beat him, wow, that's awesome. And then you lose the next week to someone else, gets caught in something because it's a game of chess. You lose to someone else, and it's like instantly it's water off a duck's back, you know what I mean? And it's constantly going. And that's why I love jiu-jitsu so much, because you can get good guys who's not afraid to test themselves, and you're just chucking yourself in, you're just giving it a go, and it's for the love of jiu-jitsu. Further up the pecking order, you know, obviously that's when like, I'm trying to think the word to use, like high profiles and stuff like that, and that's going to kind of get a bit like that. But for the most part, jiu-jitsu guys just want to compete, and that's why the high rollers is mint. You know, you have a joint and compete against great guys, and if you win, you win. If you lose, you lose. It's awesome, you know what I mean? It's just about the doing aspect of it, you know, and that's why I love jiu-jitsu so much.
Yeah, there is a massive appreciation for it. Like, it is what you said. It's like a giant puzzle. And I can see why people get absolutely fucking blazed and do it, because it's like, oh shit, if I move my knee over here, I fucking have him. Do you know that kind of, that's what you're probably thinking. It's like, oh, have him in about 3 moves, man. Do you know that kind of? No, it's something that I've always wanted to do. I never got around to fucking doing it.
Whereabouts in Ireland? Is it Ireland you live, Matt?
No, I'm in Liverpool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, well, I'm from Ireland. I'm from Limerick in down southwest or whatever.
See, I've got a. Well, sorry for interrupting you. Right. The guy, my coach, Ellis Younger, who lives in Washington, not too far from, well, he lives in Lumley, but his gym's in Washington, not too far from Simpa. We are affiliated with a gym in Ireland. It's one of the best jiu-jitsu gyms, especially, it is the best jiu-jitsu gym in Ireland, but especially in the world. It's amazing. And it's East Coast Jiu-Jitsu, and it's in Dunleary.
Oh, yeah.
So if you ever back in Ireland, mate, you should check out East Coast Jiu-Jitsu.
They fucking strangle me. What are you talking about?
I don't even know well, and you'll enjoy it.
No, I could probably fucking do with it, to be honest. But sure, fucking all that. I'm sure there's a couple around here, but yeah, I definitely.
There is. I've got a few friends in Liverpool who train. You know, there's a few good gyms in Liverpool for sure.
I'm gonna have to hit you up after this. Maybe. We'll see.
Sure, mate. For sure.
That's what I want to see.
Go ahead, Simpa.
So my other question: is there much of sort of a movement? In sort of, I was going to say your colleagues, you know, your peers within sort of fighting around sort of the awareness of cannabis beyond just sort of smoking it or consuming it. It's just like balms and stuff like that, because some of the topicals with the sort of anti-inflammatory and things like antibacterial and stuff like that, because obviously you can get like sweat rashes and things like that from a pet. Yeah, exactly. So
ringworm every other fucking week. Most of the people, most of my people who I've rolled with have had it thousands of times, and it's a common thing, you know. It's bacterial, you know. It's a common thing. I've only ever had it twice in my whole life, and I've trained especially in MMA where you actually on each other for over 10 years now. You know what I mean? I've only had it twice, whereas I know most of my mates have had thousands of times in that. You know, so it's like I like to shower before and straight after training. You know, I think it's when you. I mean, obviously, if someone has it and brings it into the gym, you can't help it, just spreads it, you know. But it's there is a lot of guys. Funnily enough, there used to be a pharmacist who used to train with us, and he used to not too much cannabis, but we used to call him Soapy Dave or Pharmacy Dave, and he used to come in and he used to make antibacterial, antifungal soap for us, and fight soap, I think he called it, or something like that, or something like that. It was one of there's a name, fight soap. It might not have been just that one. It was something like that. But he used to use a lot of honey, but I don't think he ever used cannabis in it. But obviously CBD Life, they sponsor us. They send us stuff all the time, and they send us bombs and stuff like that. So they use CBD, but I've never knew anyone who actually just used cannabis in it, you know. So I think it is an interesting topic that should be explored.
Well, yeah, I mean, definitely. We know obviously CBD is massively anti-inflammatory, so it can help sort of with joint aches, with muscles and things like that. After we know obviously that then THC also has a more I was going to say penetrative effect when it's used as a balm, so it can help for more deeper pains. And then it's things like say CBG, like massively antibacterial, antifungal. So again, being able to just have that sort of on yourself. Sort of while and through training, I think is a great way to then kind of supplement that, because it's a way you can get the benefits of cannabis without having to worry. I suppose, do you get drug tested for camps? Is this one of the reasons that you don't consume?
A lot of people. Nah, man, it's getting more and more accepted now. I mean, Nick Diaz got banned for over 5 years, massively fined, ruined his career. And then when he was meant to come back, they banned him again. And now, I think as long as you're not stoned on the day of competition, it was the day before and it was the day after. But now I think as long as you're not stoned on the day of competition, in most of their commissions around America and stuff like that, is you're allowed. And now it's obviously Bellator and you slap on the wrist, you know what I mean? It's literally most organizations are cool that now it's for the most part it's steroids, but even Bellator, man, I mean the testing's so weak there. I mean half the guys in that organization, the Intello's on the juice anyway, you know what I mean? And KSW and places like that, and it's the testing. I mean the UFC is getting better now for the testing, but there's still guys juice, you know what I mean? It's still there. It's mostly just for that. But as you're saying about the bombs as well, obviously with the CBG, and obviously it's amazing that you get to use that and heal from it, but also at the same time as you're smelling awesome as well, you know what I mean? Because I love the smell of it. You know, my house stinks of it now. I've got a big pot of it downstairs, and my missus has locked it away deep in the cupboard. It's like freaking easy. I mean, it's so deep in that cupboard, but you can still smell it. It's amazing, you know. And I wish my house could smell like that all day, mate. If I could smell like that personally every day, I mean, when you have deodorant, mate, you know? Toothpaste.
Both of which can be made with cannabis and cannabis derivatives. It's an interesting thing. People that like weed, they love the smell of it, but some people just hate the smell of it and can't really stand it.
It's psychosomatic.
I think it is exactly that. They smell it and go, police in trouble. I could get in trouble, and it almost puts them into a childlike state. And they're going, Mum and Dad's going to come and tell me off. So go away from me. Go away. I don't want to get in trouble.
That's my missus. I know for a fine fact. She makes on us that she doesn't like the smell of it, but I know for a fine fact that it's not that. It's the fact that her mum and dad, if they ever come around here, because I've kids, you know what I mean? They're coming here, and I know for a fact she's thinking they're judging us. As I couldn't give a rat's ass, me. You know, I am who I am. You know, you only need two looks at me. I have tattoos on my face, smarting about smoking blunts and shit. I don't care about people thinking us, you know what I mean? But I think she worries about that, you know what I mean? But it is what it is, man. You know.
I've just had an interesting thought there. What are your thoughts on a drug fighting league? So literally, like max juice. You're allowed to. You have health professionals, and they're like, right, we can help you juice within limits. We can help you using performance enhancements within, like, as long as it's not going to harm you physically. I'd be quite interested in seeing that.
Yeah, that was a thing. It pretty much was a thing, right? So that's where that's my take on it, right? I think if this is the place, everyone's saying this is the risks of fighting, especially now because people are getting so. It's getting so advanced and there's so many things you can do and there's so many people getting seriously injured, and MMA is still a really young sport. We know about boxing and what comes from boxing because it's been around for centuries, but MMA is so young in the grand scheme of things, you know what I mean? We're only seeing CTE and stuff like that coming now. And it's like, we know all these risks of what are there and what come on with it. You know, so many people later on in life are wrecked from it. And it's like, why? So I was saying about, like, So this is it, steroids, blah, 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 and this guy, blah, 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 steroids. But it's like, if you can't 110% test every single person to the fullest, so you know it's completely eradicated, so there's still some people slipping through the net, then either ban it, like basically do test everyone, which will cost fortunes to the highest spec, like to the highest standard, or you sign a waiver and say, right, well, if this guy is willing to fight this guy, you don't have to juice, right? It's up to you. If you don't want to juice, you don't have to, but we can't test everyone. So what we're saying is, if you are willing to fight these guys who are juicing, you can do it. Or we'll have an organization just for juice guys, which was Pride. Pride was the look, listen, they had the best fights ever. The best fights ever, you know, the best rules, the best fights ever. And it's, they had a thing in their contracts which basically stated, we will not test you for steroids. And it's like, if they can't test everyone, which they can't, which they have got USADA, which tests the fighters, but look at John Jones, and like loads of people still, you know what I mean, loads of people still getting away with it. You need only look at people still coming out now, oh, I can't believe this guy was juicing, just popped, just pissed hot. And it's like, if they're not fully getting tested, and you know some of them are slipping through the radar, then you need to do something with it, you know what I mean? And I fought guys who's juiced before, you know, I'm not scared to, if you believe in yourself fully, then I do it, you know, and if you want to be one of the guys who's juicing to get that extra bit of cardio, extra bit of strength and whatever, if you want to fight guys on that same thing, then do it, you know, and each to their own. And I think that could be a thing that could make sense, you know, especially in these other countries, you know, in Japan and places like that. Why not? They love all that crazy shit anyway, you know what I mean?
Didn't they have like no weight classes at one stage? You could fight anybody, and like you could see a lad that was like, I don't know what number, say fucking 100 pounds or whatever, fighting some fucking super heavyweight, jacked to shit. It was madness, but it was
15-minute round and then a 10-minute round. Just do two of that.
Just for the crack. Like,
why not? Let's do it.
But I mean, Pancrase used to be. Was that Bas Rutten used to fucking fight, and was it Ken or Frank Shamrock?
Palm strikes.
Palm strikes to the face, man. Oh my god, I've never seen anything like it.
Aye.
But
crazy.
you know, I mean, if that's what people want to fucking do, but I mean, you just have to look at the IAAF, the athletics for like, and even in recent fucking history, they cannot get a fucking handle on it. There was documentaries about shit. Well, I can't remember the name of it. Icarus. Yes.
Look at the Olympics. They're breaking into the freaking testing centres to change their piss just to get away with it.
I want to see somebody run 100 meters in 4 seconds. I want to see it. I'll pay money for it.
You want to see somebody getting kneed in the face and being able to take it on the chin and keep going? You know?
I want to see an MMA fight where they have to eat 5 grams of mushrooms each, and I want to see the empathy kick in of just going, I'm sorry, you're right. I'm sorry, you're right. MDMA. I want to see MDMA, and then a disco ball and some lights, and just fucking on ice.
Yeah.
But exactly, there's an interesting parallel there between. You're an adult, so there is obviously evidence that correlates over from other contact sports around potential consequences to your long-term health. But you're aware of that. As an adult, you make that decision. The same should therefore then be true with drug policy, that people can make an informed decision, choose to take this thing. If it harms them later on down the line, they've still chose to do it. It's as long as there's no one is harmed in that process. So the same is then true of the fight. As you said, if both fighters agree, as long as they are truly informed of this and it's consensual, then it's two adults, and I can't see what is wrong with that. If they want to go all the way up to weaponry and to beyond, if they are informed individuals and it is then regulated to a degree, it is then you know there are this maximum amount of safety measures applied. But we have to be rational about this. We can still drive cars, we're not supposed to, but you can afford it. You can drive 180 miles an hour on the motorway in this country. Do you know what I mean? You can jump out of a plane, you can go scuba diving, we can commit to unbelievable acts that have such high risk factors. Yet there's still the demonization around either drug consumption or physical activities. And it often comes from the same point of ignorance, that they prescribe this kind of thing of immorality, of this violence, of thuggishness, of criminality. And it's abhorrent. It's fucking ridiculous.
All right, that's it. Like, it is mad. I mean, if you if you watch this documentary, and it's called The Wrecking Machine, and it's about a fighter from back in the day called Mark the Wrecking Machine Kerr, and I'm sure that was his name, Mark Kerr. And it's about him anyway. He was the Wrecking Machine, and he would fly out. He was a wrestler originally, and he would got told about, he's fighting, he made a bit of money from this, but this was years back, and they got him out of Japan, and he's fighting, and he's headbutting guys, and there's footage of him on top of some guy, and he's fighting, he's taking them down, he's headbutting them to bits, and the guy's cut, and he's pulling the cut open with his fingers out, gouging them, and it's crazy, and that's the way it was. And after the fight, you see him, and he's lying there when, after every fight, you see the doctor, it's mandatory. I'm trying to think the word is a better word, but it's you have to. It's
compulsory.
Compulsory. That's the word I was looking for. And you have to. And he's backstage and he's asking for Percocets and all this different shit and all these painkillers, and none of it is none of it's illegal. And and then he's getting juiced up on the thing. You see it all happening, and he's gone in there fighting some of the craziest guys ever. And it's exactly that rule set of what we're saying earlier about pretty much like, whatever you've signed on to, it just kind of crack on with it, and they were the best, most amazing fights ever, and crazy.
Yeah,
I think it's a way to placate. I think all sport is in some way. It simulates warfare. It simulates violence. It simulates something something very primal in us that we're conflicted with, because we've had the millennia of our development, and then within the past sort of 1,000 years, I'm ballparking it, we've really gone through a hell of an intellectual revolution, and we're kind of left with these impulses in a world that doesn't quite allow them. The same with it's to explore our consciousness with drugs, or it's to go like, I've got aggression and it's healthy, and we know from the neurological scans and whatever else that it produces dopamine, serotonin, noradrenaline, positive hormones. It
feels
helps.
good.
It really fucking does, and this is the thing of it that needs that wider education. I'm not then to say every child must fight, but there is definitely, and I want to get your thoughts on this, an argument maybe to be made that especially young boys that are then taught a form of defense,
I think
bullying becomes a lot harder of a thing to do, because then each can defend themselves to each other, and they're not projecting insecurity.
For multiple reasons, it is for what the reason you just said there as well, because people can get better at defending themselves. But for the most part, it's the other way as well. It's because when you do learn about yourself and you realize what you can do, and you realize how little you actually know about something, like everyone, for the most part, thinks that they're going to be awesome at doing a lot of things until they actually try. And it's the same with fighting. It's the bravado thing. I'm maybe knock some pissed guy out down the town with a fucking wild shot when he's not been nothing, chip shot, and I'm a tough guy. But when you learn to actually do it, you realize how little you actually know. And when you get them walls broken down, I experienced the ego death from a young age of going to Sunderland ABC, being a Larry young kid, and then get my head punched in by some kid called Billy, who was twice the size of us, and Cliffy, with the old man who's still there now, was the coach who's doing the timekeeping, and probably had 6 pints before he's come to the gym, and forget about how long the round had been on. I'm taking the most savage beating in my life as a kid. And then you learn from them experiences that you don't need to actually have a fight. If you can have a fight, and you learn to get better at adapting to being like how to kind of filter that shit out and not have to do it. A lion doesn't have to say it's a lie to anyone, because everyone knows it's a lie. And it's the same with fighting. When people start to realize that you can have a fight, then less trouble for the most part comes your way, because you get better at like deflecting it, and that helps as well. Like,
you feel you have less to prove as well.
Yes, exactly. That's it. And you get that you find out early on that like there's all you come up with people who you're always going to get them people who are just you're going to lose to, and it's just a part of growing and learning about yourself and getting that. So I think it should be mandatory that wrestling will be a prime, the discipline and the work ethic and all that, and learning about that, as we're saying about someone always being that bit better or stronger, especially as kids, that helps, and it deflects that. I think it'll change a lot massively, like I really do. I think it should be something that's brought in for sure.
Do you think it could be potentially something to help deal with knife crime at the minute? Because that seems to be exponential between, especially young county lines dealers, young kids that are vulnerable anyway because of their sort of upbringing and their home life and their economic situation. They then end up sort of getting pushed in through this lifestyle. So at 13, 14, they've got a good phone, they've all brand new trainers, they've got all the latest shit. They're shot in a little bit of this and that. They've got that money, and to protect themselves, they've got a knife. Because they've got that fear, that paranoia of being a criminal at that age. So
it's the low. Sorry, mate. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, what are your sort of thoughts on it?
Yeah, well, it's the same as the whole local hardman mentality, you know, like because these kids there, like they're that worried of losing the rep or thinking like, shit, if a confrontation comes my way, I'm not in a position where I'm physically able to stop this happening to us, so I need this knife to be able to protect myself to stop it. If they then think, well, hang on a minute, like if something does come my way, I might be able to actually give this a good crack and actually stop someone doing it, then the whole knife thing becomes a lot less apparent because they can actually defend themselves, you know what I mean? And I feel like that'll be a massive factor in stopping it, you know. And I mean, half the drug dealers I know is the same as you, mate. You know what I mean? You'll know that a lot of them, and they're all just sound normal people, you know. And it's the young kids coming up now. It's the cold thing we were talking about before for being glamorized. You know, you're a bad man if you're knocking a bit of stuff out on the street, and you need to look the part. I mean, it was only 2 days ago, maybe 2 or 3 days ago, somebody's just been stabbed in the chest there and got a punctured lung. I don't even know, the guy might have even died, I'm not sure, in the white chafe around the corner from my house. And you know what I mean? This was 2 nights ago, and it's like, how is it becoming such a big thing now that people feel the need that they have to go out to go out, they need to take a knife with them? It's like, what's going on, man? You know what I mean?
It's unusual. I mean, my hometown is, my home city, should I say, is mislabeled as Stab City, and that was how could you imagine it? It'd be like London, and London-based media putting really shit headlines out about fucking Durham and Newcastle, say for instance, or Sunderland. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, somebody said it once in the media and it stuck with it. But at the time, we had really prevalent knife crime. And gangland violence as well in later on, but I mean, well, not later on, but you know what I'm trying to say. It sort of escalated into shootings and stuff like that. But I mean, it's very simple to deduct, right? If nobody brings a knife, no one gets stabbed. If nobody has a fucking gun, nobody gets shot. Right? Yeah. Bring that shit back and leave people just pock the fucking head off each other if they've got a problem with each other. Do you know what I mean? Fucking get these out, man. Yeah.
I think that's it. And if people could have a fight, people would have a fight. That's exactly it. You've hit the nail on the head there. And because they've got this hard man rep, right? We always talk about it. It's the hard man rep mentality, right? It's the fear of losing that whole persona that they've built up, like, I'm a hard man, but hang on a minute, if I fight this kid or this little skinny guy who's coming up here to fucking smash my face in, hang on a minute, if I'm such this big roid-head dealer or whatever, and I lose to this guy, then my whole image is smashed, you know, the whole reputation's gone, you know what I mean? And that whole thing, they come to the gym, and there's loads of times we've had local hard men who blah 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 blah, and we all know, if you fight, you try and talk to everyone, and all the domino trainers or whatever, they're all trying to be mates with them, and they've come to the gym and they've had some tiny little guy hanging off the back of their neck, choking them or kicking their heads off, sparring or knocking them, and for the most part they can't deal with that kind of oh my god, like, I'm this person, I should be smashing that guy, and that little skinny kid there's just tied me up with knots and choked us 5 times this round, you know, and they can't handle it. And I feel like that's why, you know, it's the fear of losing that whole rep, and that's why I think they'll struggle to get rid of it.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, the idea of developing that reputation. There was a guy I grew up with, or rather, I grew up knowing his family. He was the oldest brother, and they were from fence houses, and he was huge. He was nearly 7 foot, but he was one of the sweetest, softest talking kind of guys in the world. It was lovely, but he must have been knocked a dozen times in his life when he was out, because men just like, I can have him if I can take him. Everyone's smaller than him, I can take. And it does it, and it gets it, and they'll go and they'll wait, and they'll do exactly what you said before: chip shop, sucker punch. I get the mate to film it, be like, right. And I've had another friend as well, went to prison, 1 punch death. That's the other fucking side of this. If you're taught to fight, you know not to kill a man. You're not wanting to then hurt him. Most of the time, as you said, you learn defense. So then if you're out having a nice night with your missus and your mates and whatever, and someone got recognized, and I'm going to have this guy, you then know how to bat him away and stop him. You don't need to prove shit. You just need to put him on the floor and go away, mate. Right. Do you know what I mean? And I think that having that, especially young men at this point in history, because especially sort of cisgendered heterosexual white males at the minute feel very much under attack. I'm not saying necessarily that they are.
They're not.
But a lot of other groups, they're arguing are getting sort of more attention and prevalence. And I think that, as well as this idea that, wait a minute, if my peers are all armed to the fucking teeth, I need to be too. So you end up with that mentality. Yeah. And then the guys that then end up, because everyone around them gets arrested. I've seen it. I've seen low-level dealers end up in high-level spots and they've panicked because everyone around them got arrested. Somebody got raided or whatever else sort of happened, and it cleared itself out and they were left. And then all of a sudden, people want to rob them with machetes. People want to track their cars. People want to hack into their phones. These are serious level people. You know what I mean? And I think that's part of it as well, that especially the youngs that are caught up in these county lines that are then offered in a week more than their mum makes in a year. Mm-hmm. And then kind of like, I can support the family, I can do this. And they end up with this false sense of, like I said, bravado of almost masculinity and of a place within society. But they then don't have this idea of who they are. So it's the same sort of thing. If they're like big guys that could literally in a drunken rage or just and hits one guy one time, boom, he's gone. Yeah. And I think that, like you said, having that basic control. So I think, there probably is an argument to getting it within schools. You said, I think wrestling's quite a good way because of the, it's the skill set of it. And it's the intelligence of it as well. You're getting people to think while fighting rather than just going to rage and just swinging blindly, trying to harm whatever's in front of them.
I mean,
that'll then transfer over.
If you watch fucking any mixed martial arts, a striker just gets so fucking frustrated by a wrestler. It happens all the fucking time. Some of the best touted MMA fucking athletes in the world, one of them being a bearded Irishman that I don't really want to talk about. But you see how he got fucking dismantled. He got fucking tied up on the ground. He could not move. He couldn't move. That was the end of it. End of fight. You see what I'm saying? Wrestling is something that definitely should be encouraged.
And it's also it's preventative almost in that sense as well. If you can then hold or stop, again, you can then intervene as well. And I think that's something else that we've lost as a culture. It used to kind of be two guys that have a straightener, and instead of everyone egging them on, kill him sort of thing, you'd watch and you'd wait till one of them got the upper hand, and then a couple of people intervene and go, you won, walk away. All right. There'd be no need to smash a bottle or somebody sliding in a weapon or five of his mates jumping in. It would be that's two men have had a disagreement. They're going to figure it out. That mechanism's gone, and without it, you end up with rivalries, and you end up with like kids stabbing another kid because his dad knocked his dad 20 years ago in a pub.
100%.
It's mad. I mean, it's hard to the Eagle, right? Who's obviously who I was talking about. It's hard to actually put him forward though as a sort of a role model for stability in young males, because he's fucking bananas. Like he's probably one of the most talented fighters ever, but he's mental. Do you know what I mean? Same with fucking McGregor. I've said it now. Fuck it, I said it.
Same thing as jiu-jitsu though. I feel like, and I've coached it in schools actually. I was coaching at a Gracie Barha gym in Durham for a while, and we went into a couple of different places, and there's actually a photo on my Instagram of teaching a class full of 30 plus whatever how many kids were there, tiny kids, and some of them were phenomenal, you know what I mean? They learn really fast, and I feel like that's another thing, you know, and especially in, I think wrestling, jiu-jitsu, any kind of like, I know obviously boxing and stuff like that, you need to use your body, but when you wrestle or jiu-jitsu, it's your full body, and you're learning about pressure, and you learn about how your body works for different things, and how to make somebody else's body do certain things with your body, you know. And I feel like anything like that's giving self-awareness to what you can actually do and what you can bring. And I feel like that's a jiu-jitsu or wrestling should definitely be compulsory, because once you realize, like as I said earlier, you know, once you realize, like you start to learn a bit, you realize like how little you actually know, you know. The better you get, like the more further along you get, the less you realize, you know. And it's like a spiral of that, and you can diffuse things, as you were saying, Simba. You know, you don't have to be the guy who's, oh right, this guy's kicking off, I'm going to fucking knock him out. No, like you can stop. You can just be a diffuser, or even if there is an altercation between someone else, you can be the guy to then go and use that aspect and stop something happening there. You know, and I feel like for the most part, grassroots, everyone coming up, you always still got, there's always going to still be bad apples, but for the most part, you're going to have a lot more a lot more respect and a lot more kind of like people who are screwed on. You know what I mean?
Camaraderie in a sense, because you know that you can have your ass handed to you at any fucking moment. You know that kind of way. It's great. It puts you in your fucking place, man.
Damn right, aye.
I think, because that's already existing. That's already prevalent in our culture, as we're saying. And rather than people being proactive about it, you either have sort of the guys that then just go and work their glamour muscles up. They don't really learn to fight. They just make themselves big, and it's all posturing and bolstering and all that bullshit. And then you've got the guys that, go and get a strap. You know, that actually go, then fuck this. If this is going to be how it is, this is how I'm going to sort of behave. And I think there is the kind of attitude of, if you seek trouble, you kind of tend to find it. And I think that a lot of people end up, especially leaving school, if they've had a good fight career during school. We all get in scraps at school. It's kind of part of the point of it. You know what I mean? You're learning, you're understanding this. You know, as you said before, you'll win some, you sort of lose some. But there are guys that walk out of that experience thinking they are fucking God's bollocks. Yeah. And they can do. I was meant to say dog. God's bollocks. God's bollocks. I like it. I'm keeping that one.
I wonder what you'd have to do to be called the God shaft, then.
That's the next level. That's where they're aspiring to get to. But and so if they then go through unsort of challenged or unchecked, this then can often lead to quite a toxic kind of mentality. I hesitate to say toxic masculinity, but I mean like a sense that they become misogynistic, become quite hateful, and they then feel empowered to kind of push their views onto others and go, well, I can knock you. You're wrong because I can knock you. The number of people I've come up against, because I'm quite an intelligent person, I like to talk. So when I used to drink a lot, I used to run my mouth sometimes because I couldn't help myself, you know? And I've talked myself out of enough fucking fights, but some of the guys just I'm going to hurt you because I've run out of words.
That's it. That's most of the time. I haven't got a leg to stand on. So the only way I can make myself look like I'm doing something is by being aggressive or being violent, because that's the only thing I've got to use. You know what I mean?
Mm. So then this brings us on to, I suppose, another interesting sort of correlation, something we learned recently, that 40% of police officers and prison guards get reported for domestic abuse. So I was wondering, how would you feel? Because I mean, I have a relationship with the police anyway. But if they were sort of trained in these things, obviously we don't have as much of a trouble as they do in America with shooting or whatever, but we're really starting to get armed response units and anti-terrorist units that are carrying fucking machine guns and shit. Would it not be better if the cops were actually trained in these sorts of techniques?
110%. I've seen a lot of the training regimes that they use, and it's fucking, for the most part, is ridiculous. It's like stuff that's never, ever going to work. Like, ever. Like, I'm trying to think of a specific technique. But basically, my sister, back in the day, was she wanted to be a policewoman, so she went on and she was doing voluntary police work for a while, and then moved into a different aspect of police work, and then ended up getting pregnant and didn't do it. And she had the full training and everything like that, and she would show us things, and honestly, it was the most far-fetched, useless stuff ever. Like, would just, in a real life situation, just not work. I mean, you've probably seen it time and time again. How many times you watch a video on YouTube where there's one random guy and there's three policemen trying to hold him down, and he's getting up and just making a mockery with them, and it's like, what are these guys doing? Like, simple little things as well that can make a massive difference. They use hardly any energy to be, and you've got these three guys absolutely blowing out their arse, getting made a fool of them like that. You seen that guy, the naked dude who like fucking all out, and he's like the hero. He's like that guy. That's God's bollocks, right? But you know what I mean? Like, it's like the I want to say the syllabus or whatever they use. Whatever they use is ridiculous. I mean, I'm not trying to slate them too much, but it's there should be a full structure of, right, we're going to learn a bit of wrestling, so we'll learn some actual fundamental takedowns that are tried and tested at all levels against someone who actually knows what they're doing at the highest standard and still works. And then we're going to learn we're going to do some no-gi BJJ for in case we ever end up in an altercation, this guy got his top off, or there's a guy with a t-shirt, or we can't get a grip on him. And then we're going to learn some BJJ and a gi. So we've got collar chokes, and there's actual grips you can learn to use, and things that actually tried and tested and work, you know, and it would make, for the most part, I mean, I'm not saying it would be better for the overall police force, but obviously there's still like bad apples, as we said earlier. You know, it's still kind of.
But I mean, obviously, if the technique increases, then say the incapacitation, I don't know whatever fucking word is potentially safer. potentially.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's what I mean. For the most part, it's going to be a safer, for sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you see too often of people being injured. I mean, I think we've had 2.
Is he gone? Oh, it's him this time. Fucking yes. I thought it was me.
I was just thinking he was like deep in thought too.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Still thinking now. It'll come through.
I'm not sure what he was saying, and now I'm completely distracted. That's what we were talking about. Oh, just a little sort of a hot take, and it's a proper hot take, this one, right? But go with me here, right? Mm-hmm. So, obviously, prior to Bruce Lee, there wasn't much of an uptake in mixed martial arts, really. Yeah. It was very much single discipline, and you know what I mean? It was like almost sort of polar in that regard. You either did karate or you did kung fu or you did whatever. He'll be back in now in a second. But what I was sort of because that sort of established itself quite a bit in police forces and institutions like special forces and whatnot, you know what I mean? And you'd have like traditional martial arts have a massive part in that. Krav Maga is a good example as well of something that's fucking lethal. It's absolutely lethal. But I'm wondering if the reluctance to sort of move forward into looking at something like MMA, whereas if you're born and bred MMA now these days, you're going to wipe the fucking floor with most traditional solo practitioners, right? Because you fucking know an awful lot. You know how to nullify. You know how to fucking stop things happening.
That's it. There's pathways. If say for instance you've got a singular aspect dude who just trains for taekwondo, then fair enough, you give him space, he's going to be a nightmare, he's going to be kicking long distance, it's going to be hard. But then you've got so many different ways to break that down. If you're a full trained martial artist, then they've got so many different pathways. There's this method I can try, and wrestle him I can try. If it's in a confined space, or you can use the fence, or if it's in an actual fight, you could use the cage, or vice versa. Wrestling, you could, worst case scenario, you can't take him down, you grip him. Worst case scenario, let's say for instance, and most people wouldn't do this, but you could pull guard on him and try and sweep him. If he knows nothing, if you know he's just a taekwondo guy, he's never done any grappling, pull guard on him and sweep him relatively effortlessly, you know what I mean? And there's so many different options. I think to be just a one-dimensional trained dude, if you were to fight, like, so say for instance, if there was an organization where you was just use strict one singular martial art and then you should fight a mixed martial artist, I feel like it's so, you're taking a knife to a gunfight, you know what I mean? Because someone's got so many more avenues they can use, and I feel like, especially now, like from the evolution of it and how far and how deep it goes now, it's
I can just see it though. You can just see kind of all the little backhanders kind of going, well, we're the ones that provide the syllabus for the cops. Do you know what I mean? It's like, how dare they look at fucking MMA and be up to date on it? But I mean, look, you look at, it's true though. Like, it's probably some old karate capitalist dude.
Look at all the shit Bruce Lee had, you know what I mean? This motherfucker gonna be just mixing these arts up. This is the law. Let's gonna attack him. Let's fucking whatever the data is schools, I'm trying to think the word, like vandalize all these shit, he can't be mixing these disciplines.
Hey, tell me this, have you watched Cobra Kai?
I've seen a couple of the latest series. I've seen a couple of the episodes. I want to get my missus to watch it. It's obviously I'm out the house so much, man. I'm so impulsive. If someone comes up, or if there's a fishing trip, or I'm out on the bike, so I'm gym, I'm grappling, and I'm a million mile an hour. And obviously we've got kids as well. We've got 2 kids and 1 on the way. So it's like anytime we get the slightest little bit of free time together, it's like we've got so many backlog of different series or films or whatever. So we always try and just chip away at different little bits all the time.
No.
I have enjoyed it from what I have seen of it. I have actually fully enjoyed it.
It's proper. That's what I used to do, man. I just fucking get the dinner on, and literally, because I'm fucking around doing so many other things, that's the only time I get to watch anything really. So it's like, you know what? It's half an hour. It's exactly the amount of time that I eat my dinner. fucking sorted, in and out. It hits every bit of nostalgia you could think of, and it has a really, really good underlying message, which is it covers an awful lot of what we were talking about on this, looking at the bullying and the application, and
it's so fucking funny as well,
it's
man.
funny, man.
Johnny Lawrence. What's mad?
Go ahead.
You know what's mad, though, mate? It is literally like, when I first started fighting, right, it was so dark.
I'm not sure what's happening. My fucking route is
like,
just flashing red.
Fucking Cliffy, man, when you do some
runs,
runs, people will be a little on the back of the edge, you know what I mean? And it's like, or the not racist, none of that. But just, you know, the kind of old timer, like, little thing that you're not politically correct, you know, like there's the things that will come out with, to the chubby kid, it will be a little, and it's like, that's our bread and butter, that's what we come up with, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Bit, you know, character building banter, which is, you know, when used properly, you can imagine it in a proper environment like we've described, where people, young fellas are humble because they've gotten a few fucking cracks across the chin. Do you know that kind of way? You know what it feels like to fucking just to have to
get filled in. To
get filled in. That's exactly it. Yeah. But in that sort of environment, you can see. You know, having a bit of banter as well. It needs to happen. Like, do you know that kind of way? It's fucking, obviously there's lines, and an awful lot of men especially cross those fucking lines. But, you know, I'm not excusing that one fucking bit. But you can do it in a very cheeky, controlled, clever way, like, you know, that kind of way. Exactly. Definitely. You know what I mean? Simpa, I've just got a message from him, so that's why I keep looking down. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm trying to I'm trying to fucking do six things at once. Apparently his router died, so he's trying to get back on. Okay, so I have a question for you. We might as well just stay going, but I'm just genuinely interested. Is, like, obviously, COVID has put a big fucking stop on fighting, and especially an awful lot of the organizations are US bound, right? So an awful lot of the Bellators and UFCs are only either on Fight Island or they're in certain states and whatnot. Yeah. How has this affected you, like, really, professionally?
It is massively affected us, mate. It really, really has. So what happened was, obviously, the lockdown came. They cancelled me. I had a fight. So I had a fight lined up, training through. Long, big, massive fight, huge fight for me, biggest fight in my career. It was going to be main event on Channel 5, Bellator. Cut right close to the fight. I had a medical issue. They pulled us from the fight. So the fight got rescheduled later on. Training for the fight. Again, all the way through Christmas again. Done another full fight camp. Got right near the fight. My opponent, Irish guy, got injured. He trains with McGregor. He's from the same camp, SPG Island. He gets injured. Pulled from the fight. So close to the fight, didn't get a replacement. Rematched the fight again, so that's another whole camp I did again. Training all the way through. COVID comes, lockdown, boom, fight's cancelled again. So training stops because obviously, you know, gyms are let training. It's all hit and missy. Everything's hit. No one knows what's happening. Or gets a win. Or we might be able to get you the fight then. So get in the gym. No one was training, so no training. Dame daft bits of running. Just a nightmare. No motivation. Everyone's just getting fat, doing whatever they want. End up getting an offer for the fight, or you have to fight in Milan. Quarantine, quarantine. You have to fly out to Italy, do a quarantine out there, fight now, no crowd. Does that, end up losing the fight, come back, we'll lock back again, and then basically it was just up in the air. Like, people are training in Liverpool, some of they're fighting back, their gyms are getting kept open. I was just shut here, not knowing what's up. We've got the police turning up at the gym, there's training behind closed doors, it's sneaky, police still turning up, councils rocking up, and mate, you know what it is, it just went through a massive time and just being like, you know what it is, fuck it, I'm just going to get on my own stuff, spend some time with my family, crack on, do my own bits. My gym, the gym I grapple for especially, has only just gone back. This is their first full week back, just gone there. Like,
really? Just now?
So today Monday. This is the start of their actual week of being fully open again.
All right, okay. So
I don't know. So that basically what happened as well is Bellator, especially, obviously you had Bellator Europe, which signed a lot of influx of European fighters, maybe one of them, that axed, I'd say 90% of them, you know what I mean? So now I'm not actually signed with Bellator. I've just had a fight offer there. I haven't been training at all. I'm fat as shit. I've just been indulging, overindulging, eating cake and doing whatever I want, smoking shitloads of weed. I never really drink, but I've been drinking a few beers. I went to a wedding the other day, sank 18 pints of Bretty, still feeling it now. Didn't eat for 2 days. I was fucking dead. But just, you know what I mean? Just that kind of cracking, having loads of time with them. And so now I'm going to go back to grappling properly, train wellness and stuff, and start getting the motions going again. But it's like, Cage Warriors just offered to sign us there and give us a fight and stuff, but it's obviously been no training. And it's at the weight I fought my last fight at, and I don't want to fight at that weight anymore. So see what happens, you know. See if I get a good offer fight for an organisation where I'm going to get paid decent money, and then I'll do it. If not, man, I'm not. I've got my brand going. I've got my podcast going. I've got little bits and bobs. I've got a speech on Thursday. I'm getting a bit of money for that, and just little bits and bobs of just stuff like that. You know?
Listen, fucking, you crack on, you do you. Like, obviously, I did a small bit of brushing up before you came on, and because I used to be a big UFC head, like back, like I think early days. One of the first fights I saw was Tank Abbott or something back in the day. You know what I mean? Back in the day, yeah. But fucking. So it was interesting to me because I love the idea of Bellator. I love the growth that they've done over the last few years and stuff like that. But I've never really caught much of the fights and whatnot. Yeah. And I was supposed to catch the one on Friday, just gone. But I ended up, I can't remember what I was doing. I was doing some other fucking project, and I completely forgot about it because I automatically associated it as being on at like 4 o'clock in the morning. So it's just like, I'm not fucking young anymore, man. I can't do that shit. It knocked me out for a week, like, you know, that kind of
Me too. Honestly, me too.
One thing I did fucking notice, and the only thing, please don't take this the wrong way or whatever, but obviously the other lad in the McGregor camp obviously has a bit of McGregor characteristics, a bit of a mouth on him. You know, that kind
Carbon copy, aye.
Aye, right. Here's it. Oh, he shut his fucking mouth when he started to fight you. He shut his mouth. He didn't fucking run it not once. That says something, mate. That says something. You've got something there, like, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up your arse.
Yo, sorry about this. I'm just restarting the computer now. Hopefully
he's having a disaster. Hang on, sorry.
You all right? Talking with Cal for a couple?
Yeah.
You know what I think? Although there was bad blood for that whole build up and give each other a load of shit online, it was hyped the fight pretty well. And you know, at the same time, the fight went the way it did, and I lost. But at the same time, we both knew the stylistic fighting, what kind of we both brought to the table, and we had that mutual respect for each other in that aspect. You know, after the fight, he's come out and spoke about what he thought of me as an athlete, and I thought the same about him. And if you watch any of my interviews, even though I'm giving him shit and giving him stick and calling him, at the same time, I always said he's a good fighter. And we both brought game, like, as a game of chess, as I say, and if I ended up on his back, I think I could have finished him, and he ended up on mine, and that's the way it went, you know. And I feel like that's in that fight, we both knew, we both had attributes that could cause the other guy problems, and I feel like that's why it had a lot of that in that build-up route, how he was the way he was, you know, and didn't say anything, you know. And
it would have been interesting to see that fight just first off the bat with no interruptions. It would have been, and then we don't need to talk about it anymore. I appreciate it.
It's hindsight. That's it. That was the best. You know what? The first one was the best one for me. I was in the best shape in my life, and they fucked me with that one. It wasn't even. It was a brain scan issue. That's what the first one.
I wanted to talk to you about that. Yeah,
ridiculous. You were fucking ridiculous.
You nearly retired. Is that right?
I got told I had all sorts of shit in store for us, with fucking basically saying I could end up with like Parkinson's and stuff like that, and saying that's where I was headed, and fucking all sorts of shit. And it was because before I signed with Bellator, I was fighting for an organisation in South Africa. And I did a test out there, and they cleared us for the test, and fought a couple of times, and then signed to Bellator, and they wanted to see me brain scan. So I didn't have a brain scan images, but I just had a report. Obviously, I'm not a fucking neurologist, so when I got the report, I just thought, report is seeing what happened in this scan, so all they need to see is this. So I sent them that, and they were like, oh, that's in date, yeah, bang on, fight Nathan Grayson, there you go, fought Nathan Grayson. But Ireland's got a lot more extensive medical requirements, because when Charlie Ward, don't get us wrong, I think doing quotes on this, I'm sure it was Charlie Ward fought a guy and he died. So now their testing is so much more in depth kind of thing. So when I was supposed to fight James in Ireland the first time, they wanted us to send an actual scan in. So I was like, well, I haven't got the scan. So they were like, right, you need to do another scan then. The report's not enough. So I went and did the scan, And they come back and they were like, fucking, there's this report to what you give us originally to what this scan image now has just said is night and day difference. You need to go and see a neurologist. Like, you can't fight for whatever. You need to go and see a neurologist. Whatever he sees will be final. So fucking looks all over, uses money I didn't have to go to London. Short notice. This is right near the fight, so I'm emotional as fuck. I'm cutting weight, starving myself, calorie deficit, and massively fucking. And I cut a huge amount of weight. I'm 6 foot and I fight at bantamweight. You know what I mean? I do a massive cut, 3 stone every other camp I've done for the last however many fights. Gets to London, sees this renowned doctor who's helped loads of people, Nathaniel Wood in the UFC. He helped loads of people who's fighters who've had this similar issue, and straight away he was just like, mate, like, you don't, never even, I wouldn't even spar, I wouldn't do anything. Your brain scans are the same as what somebody who's just had a fucking severe car accident come in if you'd had a CT scan after that. And I was like, what? He's like, do you pass out all the time? And I was like, nah, never. I've never passed out in my life. He's like, well, yeah, have you ever been knocked out? I was like, I've never been knocked out in my life. I've never even put on my back off a punch, you know what I mean? I've had 40, this at the time, I had 40 fights. I've had 40 fights. I've never even put on my back, you know what I mean? Yeah. Never. And he was like, just couldn't believe it, like shocked by it. And I was like, nah, man, what? And I was like, this guy's crazy. And he's like, your brain space, he was saying like, there's a gap. Some people, so 1% of the world have a gap in the front of their brain, the frontal lobe. And by adulthood, it's gone. And he's saying, so it might be more of a percent when you're born, but by adulthood it's gone. But 1% of the world, I think, can still have this gap, and that never goes away.
Right.
He's saying that's fine. He's saying, but in that situation, what happened is you didn't have that gap. So what he was saying is your brain is actually separating, and you've also got 3 spots of brain damage on the side of it. So 3 big grey areas on the side, which shows damage, which you didn't have 2 years prior when you did this scan in South Africa. So I was like, what the fuck? Anyway, has hell on. Basically, he gets the fight pulled, biggest fight in my life, and biggest payday in my life at the time as well. And all this fucking shit. I killed myself. I was the best shape ever, everything in my mindset, even though my mum was in a coma at the time, just lost my nana. Aside from all that, this fight, I was like fucking dialed in, and this is what the way it was going to be. And I was going to go in there, and in my head, I was going to go in there and just demolish this guy, win easy, and be fucking pushed to the fucking stars. You know what I mean? This was my head in my. And they pulled us from that and fucking broke my heart and all this shit and not knowing what's going on. And eventually ended up, my friend in South Africa goes to the lab and pesters this lab for ages. And after hitting dead end after dead end with EFC, the organisation, saying all these scan images were gone and all this, we eventually got them, and I got them sent as an encrypted file, and I sent them to Safe MMA, which is a governing body for, I think it's European MMA over here, you know, to get an organisation that does all the scans and medicals and stuff. Sent them to them, and they basically put them with the new scan, which says, look, yes, this stuff is on your brain, but what we can show you is you've always had this. So what happened was the doctors in South Africa, whether there was negligence or they lied, which a doctor in that profession, these are the clear things you would see and write down instantly. Yeah. And they just said on the scan that I had none, just said none. So when I was asking, does he have any areas of grey or whatever terminology they would use? None. Is there this gap? None. All these different scientific terms, just put none for all of them. So basically, when I had the new scanner and I had the stuff that they thought was massive amounts of change, so they were like, look, yes, this stuff is on your brain, but you could have had it from birth. You could have had it from an accident or a fight before, and none of it's changed in the whole time in the difference of these scans. So you're completely fine to fight again. I mean, we just have to do more regular checks of it.
They didn't fucking compare it against anything pre-existing. That's fucked up.
That's the only scan I've ever done in my life was the one in South Africa. So they only had the scan from South Africa and the new scan to go off. So now and then I've done obviously scans since then, and it's exactly the same. You know what I mean? So what they're saying is every time if I want to fight, I just need to scan every time.
How long did you have to live with that that feeling that you were never ever going to do what you loved again?
A couple of weeks. Because it was mad because in that time, so obviously dealing with that anyway. Gets pulled from my fight, which in my opinion at the time was like, this is the only fight that mattered, you know, this one's live on telly, this one's this and that, and this is the one that matters, especially in Europe, you know, if I beat this kid who's a fucking being pushed to the stars, it's going to propel my career and it's going to mean something, you know. That happened, then obviously all this, so they pulled us from that. I'm thinking my career's over. My mother passed away, so then not only have I just lost my nana, my dad's mum, my gran, then I lost my mum, so I'm dealing with this all at the same time. All this shit in the dust all hit us at the same time, and then the only bit of fucking positivity in that time was obviously the fucking brain scans getting found out and coming back and telling us that I could fight again. So then that was kind of my defense mechanism, was right, all this shit's gone on in my personal life. I've got this fight. Fuck that, I'm going to use the fight. So then every fight camp. So then after that fight, the last one, when I lost the fight, that was literally what I said to him in the cage after the fight, was like, look, like, I bullshit aside, we'll fucking give each other shit, bad blood aside, like, this is what I've kind of used to get over dealing with all the loss of my mother and stuff like that. So I shook his hand and said, thanks for the fight. Nice. You know, this is what's by. So, and that's the way it was. You know what I mean?
That's great. Well, obviously, I was about to say that's great. Not giving you any fucking credit for all the fucking trauma that you had to deal with. But what I meant was like that level of respect, and obviously at the end was reciprocated. But as well is you found a way to actually utilize that in a positive sense, because all of that, and I've talked about this to Simpa before, is the biggest problem that we have in our societies is ego. We've talked about that today, but it's also the accumulated, all the pressures that are building up from everywhere. Your job, you know what I mean? How you present yourself, I'm you can tell I'm not very good at this in terms in comparison to Simpa, but I don't know, man. It's if we need to break those things down in order to actually progress, you know, that kind of way. Fucking hell.
I do know what you mean, for sure, man. I just think, I mean, for me personally, it's just dealing with a lot of shit. I feel like I've always, in that sense, had a decent head on my shoulders in being able to cope with certain stuff like that, and just being able to just tap things like that on the chin, and being able to mentalize, like, just kind of, you know what I mean, to just have that kind of like head on. And I feel like it's just dealing with shit, innit, that gets you to be that way. I mean,
well, fucking hell, we are now 24 hours later. Part 2, folks. I had a technological failure for the first time in the history of this show, guys. It wasn't Macca's fault. This one was genuinely mine. My router decided to die and give me I suppose we used to call it, you know, the red light, the red ring of death on the Xbox 360. It was doing just that red flashy light, and it was giving me PTSD of having an old Xbox and be like, why is it not working? Tapping the control on the side and that, leaning it, trying to get it to just work.
Router
the red
like
ring
that.
of death was just it, wasn't it?
Yeah, man.
Xbox done.
Fucking, oh yeah, stop. I mean, you could fix that, I think, but Jesus, you had to go all the way in and fucking solder all the bits and pieces yourself. But routers are like fucking temperamental employees, you know, that hate their fucking job. It's like, you know that I'm in a rush. You know that I can fucking see that you know that I'm in a rush. Fucking hurry up. No, I'll go at my own pace. Thank you very fucking much.
Yeah, fun bits of tech, fun bits of bloody tech. But here we are nevertheless. You probably just, or you will have now even just enjoyed about 15-20 minutes of these two chatting away. We just thought that it would be prudent to come back and sort of finish this in sort of the normal way. And there's still a few things that I wanted to obviously discuss. I can't quite remember the point I was chatting about with the police, but I think that you and Macca have already covered enough of the points around that. So I suppose what I wanted to ask you, one of the poignant questions I wanted to ask you is, have you had any psychedelic experience?
Oh yeah, I have actually, mate. Some mad ones actually. I mean, I smoked a bit of DMT. I've smoked some Changa as well, which is another form of DMT, the root. And I absolutely lost my mind on Liberty Caps one time, badly. I've had them a few times, the Liberty Caps. I've had all sorts of truffles in Amsterdam and that. I once had an ecstasy tablet that would have apparently been dipped in acid, and that was a mad experience of itself. You know, I was blacking out on the beach in Ibiza and waking up somewhere else, and for hours, all day and night, I woke up still the next morning just fucking on the moon. You know what I mean? But now the time on Liberty Caps, the first time, because I'd always wanted to try them. Me and my mate Luke, we always used to smoke together and just chill and listen to music and get fucking stoned and that. And for being one of my long-time friends forever. And basically we got some Liberty Caps, tried them, ate a few couple of grams, sitting in these, and we were just smoking joints, and it was just fucking amazing, super mellow. Everything was cool, you know, like the music was awesome. The vibe was fucking sick. We're just having a mint time, just cracking on as we always did, you know. So it was like, right, fucking, let's do it again. You know, that was a fucking mint laugh. Like, not crazy visuals on that like that. Just a good feeling a bit fuzzy, feeling a bit holes, you know, like in your stomach, feeling that. And so we've got loads. We've got like we've got a massive bag, got a huge bag of them, and we just fucking went all in. There was like 5 of us going to be doing it, and me and Luke went and got them, and I think Luke paid more money than everyone else, so he got like the lion's share. So we got back to the room. The bag was fucking massive, man. And we got back to his room, and we were there like an hour before everyone was coming. So it's like, fucking, should we just get started? And we're just fucking gobbling them, like literally like handfuls at a time, just fucking chewing them up, and just me experiencing not knowing what the actual proper dosage was or nothing like that, and just. And I was like, knew all the lads were on the way by this time. We'd been munching them for ages. We must have had fucking pretty heroic dosage, you know what I mean? And I was like, fuck it. Well, since the lads are coming, why didn't I just roll a fucking massive blunt now, and we'll spark it up, and by the time they're here, they'll have their share, and we'll just pass it around. So I fucking rolls this massive fucking blunt, huge fucking blunt. I'm just puffing away, giving it the fucking big licks, you know what I mean? Just blasting it. Honestly, the lads came in, and it hadn't maybe been about not even an hour since we started, and I just remember thinking, I'm starting to feel this pretty heavy here, like. So I was like, shit. Right, sort yourself out. Lads come in, I'm passing the joint. I'm like, I need to just not smoke for a while, you know. Just like let me the fogginess kind of like phase out and just feel myself again, you know. And it was just like instantly like, right, I know, I think I need some fresh air here. Like, it's getting a bit lungs like, and I'm like, oh, like fucking hell, I'm fucking skitzing myself out a bit here. I'm like, I'm all right. Fucking, you know, you've been in this state before with stuff, you know, you've been here many times. You're right. I'm like, right, I'm gonna get out. But by this time, it was like, it felt so hot in Luke's room, and it was so smoky, and Luke had like, no, there was like outside of his room, there's like no carpets on the fucking floors. It was like all like old flooring that had needed carpet, but they just never got it done. And it was pitch black outside of his room, and neon downstairs. And I remember walking out in the darkness, and I was like, fuck, like, I'm fucking in a bad place. I'm going too far here. I'm like, right, trying me hardest, you know. There's a few years about this as well. I'm trying to battle it. I'm not like, as a kid, you know, experiencing with shit, you fucking send yourself to that place and you're fucking battling it, but this was like next level. And I was like, I'm like downstairs in the darkness, someone else comes in the front door, and I'm like, he's like, oh, you all right, Cal? And I was like, I'm all right. And in my head, I was like, I'm not all right. I think I might need an ambulance here. Like, I've fucking had too much in this cut. So I'm thinking in my head at this time, like, I'm never coming down. Like, this is me done. Panicking like mad. And I'm like, the Liam is just walking upstairs. I'm like, mate, like, do you fancy coming on a walk? Where it's like, I'm fucking wiping out there. I need to just get some fresh air, and I'll very quick, like, get myself to my senses. You know what I mean? He was like, aye, I'll just pop up there and say the lads for 5. Are you coming up? And I was like, oh, wait, mate, just come for a walk. And I was like, no. He said, we'll see the lads. So I walked back upstairs. I walked into the room, and I only had shorts on at the time. And I walked into the room, and as soon as I went in the room and the heat and the smoke hit us again, it was just like, whoa. And everything's just like fucking moving everywhere. And I was like, Jesus Christ, this is like next level. I'm tripping balls. Like, and I was like, fucking, I need to get out. I was like, kind of lent some trousers, and Luke was at the time. He was getting slimmer, but he was still always like a big lad. At this point, he was still quite big, and he's fucking necklace, these joggers, and they were just fucking huge. But I was like, I didn't even care. Battling, trying to get in them, just like fucking fell. I'm stumbling, wobbling everyone, pulls these fucking trousers on, gets chatted on, thingy. And Liam's like, I'll come for a walk with you. So gets outside, and when I walked outside, it was mad. It was like every time I took a step, the landscape was going like boom, boom, like changing like the kind of gradient. When I was walking out, I was like, fucking, like, this is fucking intense, man. I'm like looking around, and I remember looking up into the sky, and it was like a grid, right? And it was like a dome around us, and the whole sky was like a dome, as if it was grid pattern around us in the sky. And I was like, fucking hell. But like the seeing that kind of shit, it wasn't that was the issue that was scaring us. It was the way I felt in myself, because my breathing was so like, and I was like feeling like I needed to tell myself to breathe, and my chest felt so bad. But when I was talking, it was as if the voice wasn't coming from where it feels like it normally comes from. It was as if I wasn't in myself. So when I was talking, it was like just a empty, fucking scary feeling. Anyway, battled through that. We went for about a 20-minute walk with me just absolutely fucking on the moon, tripping balls. And then Stefan, another one of the lads, was on his way up, and we're seeing him in the car, and he pulls over and gets us in the back of the car, and we're fucking driving, man. The wind is down, the fucking wind's hitting us, and it was just like, can't even explain how fucking wild it was. Anyway, we gets back there, and I couldn't go in the house. I was like, if I go back in the house, I'm like, fucking curtains, it's ambulance time, you know. I'm gonna be carted off on a stretcher if I come back in there. So I was like, stood outside in my own world, just fucking constant battle. And then everyone came out, so I went for a walk. And Luke lives at a place called it's not far from the cornfields, and there's a place called Tit Hill. It's like a big, massive, it's like a tit with a nipple on the top. You've probably seen it, you know what I mean, didn't you? Just next to Hastings Hill and that, next to Pension, it's called Tit Hill. Anyway, it's got a big nipple.
Yes, another one you mean.
But around the back of there, when the sand hills it's like a whole open area, so there's like only street lights, but once you get into a certain part, it's just pitch black. So we're walking through there, and every time I was like walking in it, if I was talking to someone, when I blinked, it would be like big like white camera flash, and I was like, whoa. And I'd be like talking to someone, then I'd be like there, and it was like everything was like just like mad, fucking like crazy as fucking. We're walking on, and then it gets back into the park, like the park extension, and all the street lamps, you would see them, but it was like they had big orbs around them, and I was like fucking crazy. And I was like, all the lads are still smoking joints. Oh, Cal, do you want some? And I'm like, no, I'm fucking, I need to clear my head for a bit. I'm battling this like badly. The whole time I'm letting Luke know like how fucking skits I was, but to the rest of the lads, I was kind of like brushing it off a bit, telling them I was skitting, but not on the level. I was telling Luke, I'm like, mate, like, because Luke is still eating them at this point. I was like, mate, like, I didn't think, obviously, I think it was the fucking smoking the blunt that intensified mine and hit this so quick. But he had been chilling, like, obviously just munching the thing. And I'm like, mate, like, stop munching them. We've ate like stupid amounts. If you keep eating them, you're gonna be worse than where I am now. And he's like, nah, saying fucking munching them, gets on the joint and that. And then I just seen it. We'd been out for a little while, and then I kind of started to feel like, all right, like I'm not like as scared as I was anymore. And my body's kind of like not used to it. I'm still fucking off my head, but I was kind of like in a position where I was like, right, I'm getting through this. I can battle this for the way it is now. I can like maintain the grasp I've got on everything if I just battle it. Whereas then I just looked at Luke, and I knew he was going to where I would be. Then he just went the exact same way, and he's saying to me like, mate, I need help in that. And I was like, mate, like, you didn't, you know, we've had far too much, but you didn't. And the whole night was like that. And then it was pretty crazy because like we chilled back in the house now. Luke took a wobbler, thinks everyone's fucking talking about him. He ends up going to lie down by himself off his head for ages. And then all the lads fuck off. And anyway, I fell asleep. And then when I got up the next morning, I was still fucking, so I still feeling it, you know what I mean? I would still see like, I'd be like looking somewhere, and then there'd be like a little down the side of it, and I'd be like, what the fuck was that? And it'd be like a gold or a purple leaf. And I was like, whoa, like that's, I'm still seeing shit. I'm still not feeling right. And then I left, and then I fucking, at the time, I can't remember, was it me Clio that I had? It was one of my old cars anyway. And I remember driving back, and I ended up fucking crashing my car. It wasn't bad, but I turned onto Tier Road, and like on Tier Road, there's like a few houses on one side and a few houses on the other. And there's basically like a mini roundabout where I was, but I turned onto it, but there was a bus coming down, and he should have stopped to let me kind of come through, because it was more where the traffic was, where he should have waited. And he kept going, but I was already in that, so I couldn't stop. So I was like, fuck. So I like pinned it, tried to put my foot down a bit, and like it got to the point where I was like, fuck, we're going to head on collision here. So I like just like to the side and just smashed someone's mirror off. So I was like, fuck. It's like pulls out. I was like, shit, this is like fucking early. There's 10 o'clock or whatever it was in the morning. I'm like, pulled out. I'm like, fuck, this is the day of this. And I'm like, fuck, if someone pulls out, well, coppers come or whatever, I'm off in fucking head, you know what I mean? So I pulled out, and I was like, as much of a dick move as this is to whoever's car was, I was like, shit, no one's saying. I was like, fuck this, I'm off. Just peeled. It was on his mirror. If someone ever come back to it, I would pay for it. You know, it was a mirror. Now looking back, pure dick move. But at the time, I was like, this is the logical thing to do. And I just bolted like, and that was it. And since then, I've been like, I mean, I've had truffles since then, and I've had little tiny like daft sips of teas with the shrooms, but I've never went as crazy as that. Like, but I've still got, I think I've got like 10, maybe not 10, maybe 8 or 9 grams or something in the bag downstairs. That's like fucking pretty much dust now because I've been that scared of them. I've been in my camping bag. They're just like smallsies out. It's just like, it's like as if you've had your tea bag colder. And when you ever empty and you run out of tea in the bottom of that, and it's all like dusty as hell.
Yeah.
That's what the bag's like, just like.
That's the potent stuff.
But that's obviously the experience I've had on especially on Liberty Caps. I mean, I had the truffles and we were in Amsterdam and I was fucking off my head on them, and to be honest, everywhere was a crew. There's been 2 times I've done that, and one of the times we got fucked up pretty bad on them, and that was the time then there's only been 2 times I've been to Amsterdam on the ferry. I was flying now and I have to fly because they took my passport and banned us off the ferry because loads of people, everyone was just fucked up in the rooms, got smashed up, and there's people smoking and tampered with the smoke alarms and that, and there was damage, so no one was going to own up for it, so they took mine and 2 of the lads as fucking thingy. But I was guilty by association because I was fucked up and I was in their room partying with them and smoking in the room, but it was like, it wasn't me that put the thingy on the smoke alarm, and it wasn't me that was room, so I was kind of guilty, but it was kind of not me, so I got fucked with that. But one of the other times we munched loads of the truffles, the Hawaiians and all that, and just had a mad time mooching about, and there's like some little woods next to where I was staying and that, and just fucking spent the night mooching about there. And I remember we'll come back and a lad called Pewy, one of the lads we were with who kind of went missing, we found him and he was just in this revolving door of this place we're staying, just fucking walking around. It was like, have you seen the end scene of the Midnight Express, like not the end scene, but in towards the end of the Midnight Express, when in the Nutty House and they're following each other around in the circle? That's pretty much what it was like. Him in this revolving door, just talking madness to himself, where his eyes shut, just walking around, it's crazy, like.
Did you find, obviously, because I mean, I've found that Liberty Caps, they have a really different, for lack of a better word, energy compared to a lot of other mushrooms. A lot of other mushrooms are really giggly and light. Liberty Caps seem to be one of those things where there's a very fine line between that perfect level of, oh, here comes the visuals and whatever else, but they're an incredibly introspective mushroom. They will hand your ass to you, whether it be physically through like that, or it'll just lock you down and go, right, you're not going to move for 8 hours. Think about everything you've ever done in your life and be grateful the next morning the experience is over. But
it fucking puts hairs on your chest like if you have a fucking big dosage of them Liberty Caps, because I tell you what it is, mate, I did all the money in the world now, so when there's a lump of there, I don't know if I would I'd be jumping back to where I was then, because I thought it was fucking stroke city, mate. I thought I was having a hemorrhage in my brain, so I thought it was like, this is curtains, I'm done, like this is happening now, like I've just got to ride the fact that I'm dying now, you know.
Yeah, that is it. The number of occasions, especially on LSD, where I've literally just gone, oh my God, I am so fucked up. Looked at the clock and gone, it's 4 hours in. And it's gone, right, tomorrow, when I see the sunlight, it'll be normal. I don't care what happens between now and then. I can make it. I don't need to eat particularly, as long as I sip at some water. And I just, it's amazing, those experiences, how humbling they are. So, I mean, obviously as a fighter, you know your physical prowess, you know what you're capable of physically, but then to do something like that and then have to face a very different kind of foe, to face yourself in a very different setting. I think, is there a comparison between sort of, you know, the wanting to best yourself in the gym and in sparring and sort of the experience that you had with psychedelics?
I mean, I suppose it's all about kind of mindset, isn't it? I suppose it all ties in, really. I mean, obviously, in regards to having a fight or sparring or being in that position, it's all about like you versus you kind of thing, isn't it? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, like in a fight, you're fucking terrified, and in them positions, I've definitely been terrified. You know what I mean? So it's just about kind of getting inside your unconsciousness and just kind of controlling your body and especially your emotion. That's a massive thought of it, you know, like just being able to handle your own emotions, because like obviously when you get scared, it's the kind of like fight or flight, and it's the same as in a fight, and it's the same in that, you know yourself, you're fucking hell, man. I've done it when I've been smoking weed. I've sent myself to that same place just smoking weed, you know. I've been in Amsterdam and not eating for fucking over a full day and just smoking blunts constantly. Then woke up the next morning and sent myself absolutely west just off blasting a fucking joint amnesia here. It's just a full blunt of that to myself and just being like, shit, I'm fucking done, you know, like wipe myself out and it's easy done, you know. And I think it's like, if you've got that kind of, you can kind of shut it off and kind of battle it and just be like, right, no, like I'm not skitzing out and I'm actually all right, then 9 times out of 10 you can kind of pull yourself through it. But then it's like when it gets that kind of like fucking hell, like I'm on a bad way, and then you kind of put yourself onto that train of thought and it does wreck you. You know, I feel like it's the same in fights, you know, like it can overcome you, and if you kind of let it overcome you, the nerves, you get in there and you kind of perform, or you get in there and things happen, you know what I mean? And a lot of the time it's actually just the battle in your own consciousness of just being able to just get on with it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Interesting. So have you ever heard of the term yips? Is that something that sort of fighters think of? It's sort of like overthinking. It's I think it comes from golf, and it's sort of the yips occur in the moment when you lead the swing up and you come down, and it's that thought process. Something that occurs, and your body micro twitches. You do something that stops you quite achieving what your thought process thought you were going to. And I was just thinking, actually, because magic mushrooms, LSD, a lot of the sort of classic psychedelics, they help cause like neurogenesis and neuroplasticity, so really help the way that the brain develops in new thoughts and novel thoughts. So I was just thinking there, as we were talking about like cannabis in recovery from fighting, as to whether I wondered there'd be a place for psilocybin, as again what we were talking about like the PTSD and that kind of, because you're choosing a traumatic experience at the end of the day. It's you're doing it, and you're choosing it, you're controlling it, and you're controlling the parameters as much as possible. You're training to know your skill and what you can. There's obviously rules and regulations, but your body doesn't know that. It thinks it's being attacked. You're in an actual fight, so there's parts of that I imagine then your psyche goes to, as you were saying, fight or flight. Like, this man wants to really fucking hurt me. I was just wondering, do you think there's a space for these things of recovery?
They're for sure, mate, 110%. I know there's a lot of coaches, especially in MMA, who microdose. I don't know if you remember when I spoke to Ian McCall. I spoke to a guy called Ian McCall. He was a USA fighter. He fought Demetrius Johnson. Demetrius Johnson. Mike, he fought him for the belt twice. And he actually owns half a pharmaceutical company, and they try and get microdosing of magic mushrooms, psychobilin, into being legalized, and kind of obviously to help with depression and stuff like that, but also for athletes. He basically says, like, he takes, I can't remember the measurements he says, but he's actually got them created into the like a little tabletty gem form, and he's just sitting there, and when we were talking, he was just munching them, and he was just like, this is the dose that I take, and I believe that it kind of lets us kind of, as we were saying earlier about the pathways and stuff like that, like kind of be more in tune with his body and his thoughts. And he basically says, like, if you plan on doing it, like, to do it anyway, if you want to try it, experience it. And he was saying just like, you would go to the gym and say, right, X, Y, and Z, your training partners that day, like, look, this is what I've done. I've took this, like, this is a mild dose of this, but just to let you know, like, blah, blah, blah. And deal that way, and then till your body gets used to it, and then obviously after a while, then you're not feeling any kind of that kind of effect of it anyway, and it's just happening naturally in your brain. And it was really interesting, the things he had to say, and I thought exactly what you just said there. I definitely think there is a place for it, you know what I mean? And especially since they're starting to potentially test it and research it and see what benefits there is from it, you know what I mean? I think it's a really interesting matter, and it should be explored, you know what I mean? Especially with that kind of, with the mental health aspect of it as well, you know what I mean? Sorry, is that blocked the thingy? Oh, sorry, someone popped up saying restart my screen. No, I probably went bong-eyed there, but I definitely think it is a good idea, mate, as you say, and there's obviously a lot of science into it, you know, especially with fighting, especially as you were saying there, is such a heavy thing on the mind anyway, and in yourself. And I just think if anything's going to help that to deal with that, then it's going to be that, because it's such an emotional, traumatic experience every single time, you know what I mean? Whether it's like low level and you're just starting off, or whatever, you know, every time it's a lot of stress and a lot of tension to put on yourself, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does he still have that fucking wonderful mustache?
He does. It was more chilled out. I think when he fights, he obviously styles it and stuff like that. But when he come on, it was just more chilled. But it was more like
fighter, man.
Fucking sick fighter. Me, he's a pioneer. He was a massive fan of mine for years. You know, like So when I got to speak to him, it was awesome. But he was really interested, and that's all we really spoke about. He's just psychedelics, and then all the things he does with that. You know what I mean? It was pretty cool.
Interesting. So I suppose one thing I am mindful to ask you. I suppose all athletes have to be aware of kind of an exit strategy and the potential consequences of their chosen sport on their physical self and their mental self. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you're about sort of my sort of age. I don't actually know sort of how long fighters typically go for, how long your sort of career would be. Mm-hmm. But I'm just curious as to sort of what your goals or hopes are within sort of the next part of your career, and have you sort of considered, like I say, as we talked about with CT, whatever it is, the head injuries and things like that. See, got a fucking head injury, and those kind of things, and what you're potentially doing to mitigate it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's subjective to each fighter, but back in the day, it would be like fighters would kind of come to their early 30s, and it would be like they're kind of like on the end of their career now, but training and being sensible and nutrition and all that kind of thing, and sensible training. And still now, I mean, didn't get us wrong, there's still 1,000,001 times I've had absolute wars in the gym and come out looking like the elephant man. It's been ridiculous, but it's like at the end of the day, it's like miles on the clock. If you think about a car, and heavy sparring like that is fucking bad miles on the body and the brain, you know. So, but people are getting a lot wiser to that now, and they're being a lot more sensible in camp, and it's just getting more and more evolved to understand how much risk it is and stuff like that. And I feel like people are starting to hit their peaks now. Like my coach, Andrew Fisher, he didn't have the best run of his life till he was like 33, I think he was 32. And he had a run of where before that he was arguably towards the end of his career, he was kind of on a few losses and stuff like that, and then hit 33 and went on 32, 33 and had the best run of his life that he's still on now. You know, he hasn't lost a fight since. And that was a few years back, and he's had some big wins since, you know. And I just feel like, I mean, even if you look at the UFC now, you look at like Frankie Edgar, he was champion at lightweight, dropped down to featherweight, had a fight for the title there. Now he dropped to bantamweight, and he's still a contender now, and he's 39-year-old, you know what I mean? And you look at
Couture as well.
Exactly. And it's easier for the heavier weight guys. So if you look at boxers, you know, heavyweight boxers, you get these guys that are 40-year-old and they're still at the pinnacle of the sport. But because the power is always the last thing that goes, you lose your speed and everything before that. But now, if you look at any of the top 10 in any of the lighter weight divisions in the UFC, in Bellator, there's so many guys there who are like 30 odds, 40, some of them, you know what I mean? And it's just about, I think it's that just kind of the aftercare outside of fights that's making a massive difference now. But for me personally, I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously there's always that kind of route you will go with the coaching and stuff like that. That's always like there for fighters. But I mean, don't get us wrong. I love the sport, and I love kind of giving back. And if I can help people with anything, and I delved into that a little bit before, but I don't know, man. For me personally, I just enjoy the sport and enjoy watching it. And if I couldn't fight anymore, then it wouldn't be the be all and end all, you know what I mean? I mean, I could go into sport coaching, but I just enjoy the grappling and training and whatever, you know. And as I say, like anybody can make money, you know what I mean? That shouldn't be the kind of driving force to what you're doing, you know what I mean? But it's like there's a number of things, and as you say, like it's especially now, it's after being what I've been through and stuff like that, and being where I've been, it's like kind of like I'm fully aware of what it takes to have a fight and what it takes from us every time I have a fight. So if I do it, mint, and if I didn't, let it be, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like, especially now, some of the weight cuts I've done, I'm 29 now, coming up 30 next month, and it's like, I'll fight if it's the right reasons or the right opponent or whatever, but I'm not just going to have a fight for the sake of it, because every single time, like if you look at him, I've probably took so many years off my life doing the weight cuts that I've done, you know what I mean? There's no doubt about that. And then some of the concussions I've had, and as I say, I've knocked myself out outside of training. I've been in all sorts of different accidents. I've butchered myself loads of times doing stupid stuff, and it's like, how much can your body take? You know what I mean? So it has to be the right thing. And it's just having the sense of knowing that, you know, like not just saying, oh well, I'm a fighter, even though I'm at this stage, that this is what I need to do to be myself, and this is my identity. It's like, no, like whether you're a fighter or not, if you fought, you're always that fighter. You know, it's like a footballer. You know, a footballer retires. It's not like, oh, he was once a footballer. It's like, no, he was the footballer. You know what I mean? That's just what you are. You don't have to actually fight just because. You know, so
once you understand like excellence in that term, like in terms of discipline, like it's transferable. It's transferable. The same sort of application is applicable to everything else that you do. It's exactly the same thing. So it's another form of fighting in that regard. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it's just constantly learning. That's what Tommy Chong was on about. Exactly the same fucking thing.
That's exactly it.
I love learning. Yes, I had an interesting thought when you were talking before about how sort of it's improved. So obviously with the education and the awareness, and you're a smart guy. You're not what a lot of people think, fighter, brutish idiot, bully from school that likes to kick the shit out of people. But honestly, that's what a lot of people who would look at organized violence, and that's how they'll look at it, and that's what they'll see it as. Whereas, so I'm wondering, is there a part of this which is a more of an adjustment to fighters' view of masculinity? So the aftercare is not them being soft. It's not, I need help after the fight. It's like they've shown their prowess through their craft, and then they're able and willing to actually accept the aftercare and be like, fuck, I'm actually injured. I should rest up. I don't need to act tough, or do you know what I mean? Have that more healthy, rounded awareness of themselves. Yeah. So like you said, to not just go, I'll take every fight because the more numbers I have, the better I am.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously,
sorry, I think it's mixed across the board. I mean, because you get the likes of like, I'm trying to think of an example, like Cowboy now, and he's just wrapping up fights for the sake of it. And I'll fight him on short notice. I'll fight that guy, and he's getting sparked every time. And it's like that. Once you start getting knocked all the time, as I say, you don't get resistance to being knocked out. It's like a tub of Pringles, once you pop that first one, it kind of always just ticks away and it gets worse and worse. That's why you see the likes of like Chuck Liddell or legends like that now, right? They fucking get in the cage door shuts, they're knocked out. You know what I mean? Like that's not. But there's some people who can't let that go. The fact of I feel in myself, I can do it, so I need to still do it. And it's obviously it's your life, do what you want, but at the same time, there's more and more research being done now, and people are realizing what CTE is. And if you look at like American footballers, so many of them young kids getting knocked out all the time, and then they always have it, and it leads to suicides, and it's all sorts of stuff. A lot of boxers have it, and then Dave Mira, he was a BMX guy. Yeah. Can you remember him? He was a pro BMX guy. He knocked himself out a bunch of times, and he got massive when he killed himself. And when he did the autopsy, he had massive amounts of CTE, and it's all, you know what I mean? So people are seeing these kind of things now and thinking, hang on a minute, like fucking hell, like this is actually a real thing. This is shit that happens, and we are fucking smashing 7 bells of shit out of each other and then going in these fights and getting smashed up in them. I think people are just trying to be a lot more conscious now, and there's so much more information that's readily available, like online and documentaries and videos, and you're seeing it happen to fighters now, especially as I was saying before about MMA being such a young thing. You're actually seeing the effect of it now. There's a guy called Spencer Fisher. I don't know if you heard about him recently. He was a veteran, UFC guy, fought everyone. He was being in absolute wars, like literally left himself in there every single time. He was in crazy fights. Every fight was the same. He was just all or nothing, kill or be killed. And now he's like fucking basically disabled, and basically there's essentially no real help from him, and I feel like there should be like more people coming out and doing it. Like I would love to be able to, if I could, set something up or be involved in something like kind of like deals in that side of it, because surely there has to be some kind of union that can be made to help fighters when it's all said and done. Because at the end of the day, like say, there has to be something when you can't just be a fighter this whole time, get so much damage, then hang on a minute, right, you've retired now, you're left to be by yourself. Well, hang on a minute, this guy's got brain damage, that guy's fucking disabled. There has to be some kind of support system there, and there's not. MMA is literally like I don't know if it is now, but it was always an unsanctioned sport. Like it's only just become legal in New York a couple of years back. No, Norway or Sweden, it's illegal. France has only just legalized it. They've just had their first ever MMA show there. It's fucking crazy, man. You know what I mean? And there should be help for after. There should be aftercares. There is in other professional sports, like your footballer, there's unions and societies and stuff like that. And that's what there should be in MMA, So I'd love to try and create someone that be involved in being an advocate to kind of help with that kind of shit. You know what I mean?
I'm sure there'll probably be an appetite within your peer group to do such things, exactly that you pay in, say, weekly, monthly dues, or a percentage of fight wins.
Turn this light on. I've realised that I've been sitting there like a fucking vampire in there. Oh, that light doesn't actually work. I'll open this window. I think I've got a window there. Oh, it's the other way. Sorry, lads.
No worries, no worries. But yeah, exactly that. So if say a percentage of fight win or just weekly, monthly dues were paid into a pot that then handled this, that then could coordinate and vertically integrate everything from physical therapy, mental health, could then start to get in work with these organizations that are doing research around psilocybin, cannabis, and various other things that we are seeing to be incredibly useful prophylactically and as sort of treatments for impact trauma, which is effectively the result of organized contact sports.
Yeah.
So I think that there should definitely, or there will definitely be an appetite for that.
That's it. I mean, there should be, you know, it's like especially across the board, you know what I mean? Like, especially imagine if you could do something like that worldwide, get enough of the organizations or companies to have like a governing body that would be like, right, this is the situation, to have an organization that legitimately runs. If you're going to fight for us, because you have to do any of the major organizations, you have to do brain scans, you have to do heart scans, all these different medicals anyway. When I first signed to Bellator, my first fight with Bellator, I had to do an eye test, and it was the first eye test I've ever done in my life. And this was a couple of years back, and I found out I need to wear glasses. You know what I mean? Like, this is fucking, I didn't even know. I've been getting bad heads all the time, and I just thought it was off sparring and part and parcel of all. Got in the gym, we're punching each other's heads in all the time. I'm fucking banging my head, getting taken down or taking people down, and just fucking thought that was part of it. And they were like, no, you're like long-sighted in your left eye, and you're causing yourself to get bad headaches because you're straining yourself, you know. So I was like, fuck it. Well, there's some good come out of that. But if most of the organizations had like a governing body that would be like, right, this is to run, we need to be like, right, or at least affiliated with this kind of union to be like, right, if any of the fighters coming through here, they are now a part of what's going to be this for later on in life, you know what I mean? Or just a bit of security for people, because of, as you see, there's so many people getting injured, and then it's like they're giving their lives to a sport to try and benefit their lives, and not, but also because it's something they love. And then after, it's like fuck all. It's like it being you know, like when you say these soldiers and they come being away and they're serving their time, and then they come back and then they leave the army and they've got nothing. No, half of them end up homeless. It's like, what? There should be something the same way for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you consider that the profits made from pay-per-views and everything else. You think of the money that's in sponsorship. There's a lot of fucking money in mixed martial arts. Yeah. And so, I was just correcting myself in my own head of going, the fighters should maybe pay a small contribution, but the fuckers that are making the goddamn money off you guys kicking the shit out of each other should be fucking paying for your longevity.
You're right. It should be means tested for the fighters, as in, like, do you know what I mean? If you've got a smaller fucking purse, then you should pay less, you know, that kind of way. And here's the thing: if you put that sort of architecture in place, then you can transfer it to a political environment, and then just everything would be sound. I'm joking. Anyway,
no, but I think you're right with sort of the same way they have to do the preemptive work to check your medical wellness and competency to fight. They should then have a certain duty of care afterwards as well. So hopefully we'll have you on again in the not too distant future, and we'll be talking about exactly this. And hopefully somewhere in the universe, I have this theory of this bubble theory, that there's only so many things that can exist at any one time. And whenever somebody brings something into reality, it gets stuck in the bubble. So we've just put it into the bubble now. So somebody else is going to have a dream about it. Some insurer or like legal guy is going to wake up and go, I've just thought of a brilliant idea. And there we go. We've put it out there. It's going to manifest. We'll see it happen.
Hopefully hires me then instead of someone else, some pencil pusher.
It needs to be led from the movement. So it's potentially, I think, something that even the gyms, there's a large infrastructure within it that of people that would massively benefit from this, because it's not just the fighting and the sparring and the camps. It's the culture, it's the community, it's the camaraderie, it's the friendship and the kinship that people find within this. You know, as we were saying before about the respect and the humility within this. It's not hatred for the other. It's, you may have sort of professional sort of competitive bouts and whatever else, but the majority of it is you respect that person and you're trying to better yourself to better them or to beat them. It's not a case of you're trying to like put them down sort of thing. So I think
definitely that's it. It is just trying to obviously test yourself against another man and try and obviously just push yourself and progress up the ladder, you know what I mean? So that's what it is. So everything aside, even if it's a bit of bad blood or whatever it is, at the end of the day, you know, after the fight, regardless, you respect each other, you know, even like every single time, like when you get in there, it's experience that you take away from it forever, you know what I mean? Like, crazy experience, you know what I mean? No matter what way the fight goes, whether you win, you lose, you get knocked out, you put someone to sleep, whatever happens, it's that kind of experience. It's like a life kind of, just a moment, you know what I mean? It's strange, and you take that away from it. So at the end of the day, when it's said and done, it's always respect, you know? So it's like, there has to be something to be done about it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, well, I hope then a lot of people sort of listen to this, and people that wouldn't consider it would then look at mixed martial arts and training in various different disciplines as a way of bettering themselves, and as a way of sort of creatively and constructively utilizing aggression or rage, and using this as a mechanism by which to train and hone your own emotions.
Sorry for interrupting you, mate. I was just going to say, I think personally, anyone who's physically able, who obviously can do it. I think anyone should have one fight in their life, and just for themselves, just to be not a bravado thing, or to be I fucking had to fight, or nothing like that. I've never thought of fighting as that. Like when people talk to me about fighting, it's fighting. You know, when people say, "Oh, it's fucking great," and it's like, nah, just it's a puzzle, and it's a game of chess, and it's using your piece of the puzzle to beat their piece of the puzzle, and it's just fun. And whereas, like, I just think anyone should do it, because obviously, as we were saying about the wrestling and the BJJ thing in school, it gives you that kind of awareness of yourself, and it gives you that, but it also, it's like going on a journey, you know. Once you've done it, it's like it's that fucking wild and that crazy and that terrifying and that emotionally traumatic. It just puts you on a different kind of mindset, you know what I mean? And I feel like everyone who could do it should have just a taste of that, and fit in the world would be a better place for sure.
Definitely would. Because for most people, it wouldn't be a bravado thing. They might think it would be, but it would be, oh shit, I'm here. Right. Okay, fine. I know not when to run my fucking mouth anymore.
It's like jumping off a diving board, you know. So say, imagine you're there in fucking freezing cold water, and you jump, and it's like, there's no going back now. It's like, once you walk out that curtain, it's like, there's no one going to help you now. You know, you kind of, you're in it, and you're just doing it, and it's happening. You know what I mean? It's fucking scary and fun and terrifying. That's awesome.
I think you're entirely right. If nothing else, to remove kind of the fear of it. People that have never been in a fight, and that have maybe watched action movies, war movies, or whatever, and they've got all this programming on them of what could happen, and what it looks like, and what it could be, and how bad it could hurt, and they have this aversion to pain and this fear of being humiliated or whatever else. So most people are just like, rah! So they try and avoid this thing. Whereas actually, if you can then face it and have quite a primal experience as it is, it then gives you a more rounded experience of what it is to be human. You know that you are capable of causing harm to others, and others are capable of causing harm to you. So then you act accordingly. You don't act a dickhead. It's the same thing I was trying to say to someone the other day. Is like, I said to somebody that, he speaks with the confidence of someone who hasn't been punched in the face.
Yeah.
The person I was speaking, it was like, what are you on about? And I was like, because listen to them. They're just so full of shit.
Yeah.
And it's that weird kind of thing. And I'm not advocating the like violence in children, but I think that a few decades ago, we kind of grew up in a time where you scrapped, and the teachers almost encouraged you, like, just go deal with it. And if it got to a point of like serious aggression, you'd separate it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think this is a way to kind of step people back into that realm of knowing that I could harm somebody, therefore I should be aware to not harm them. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Whereas a lot of people don't, especially, I know with big guys, they get drunk and they think they're being rah, rah, and they're like knocking people over and shit, and bear hugging people. Learn your power, mate. Please learn your power.
Yeah. It's like listen to Joe Rogan mentioned something about it before. I don't listen to Joe Rogan anymore, but there was a time when I did, and if you listen to him when he talks about people who they're I'm trying to think the word, the perception of themselves, who've never had a fight, in the crazy and the dead aggressive and confrontational and the fucking shouting at people, and it's like, it's all about where they get that kind of the false confidence from, in not actually ever doing it. And then you get the guys who have, and it's just exactly what you said there, just that understanding and understanding what to do with himself and how to control himself, you know. But it's an interesting one, and it's crazy, and it's like, I always say it's like, fighting's probably the only thing people in the world, especially men, think they're going to be good at, who have never learned to do it, you know. It's like, obviously But, you know, watch a footy match and see, fucking hell, I could compete with these fucking pros there, you know what I mean? Messi, I would give him a fucking run for it, you know, it's like, but they did, and you get these fucking drunk as fuck guys on the couch who's he's a pussy, and they're fucking like saying about, it was recently about the Billy Joe Saunders fight, the amount of people on my Facebook, it broke my heart, because I was thinking, like, I thought people were getting educated these days, and people are saying he's a quitter. I'm like, are you joking? He's fighting the most fucking ferocious puncher, the biggest star in boxing at the minute, and he's had a fight with him and give a good account of himself, and his fucking face is smashed to bits, and people are saying he's a quitter. He's got a quadrupod or whatever it's called, fracture on his face. It's like, he could potentially lose his eye and be blind in that eye forever from that. Yeah, and people are saying he's a quitter. It's like, nah, man, there's more life than look at the ties, the Muay Tais. The way they've got it, they spar super like the whole time, and they're fighting every other week. You know what I mean? In losses to them don't go down as a loss to see as a boxer. Like, oh, now it's getting a bit different now, but back in the day it would be like, oh, that boxer's lost, he's fucking done now. You know what I mean? You get these 50-known guys. It's not like MMA is not like that, but it's still kind of like that. Whereas in Muay Thai, records don't matter. You'll get a guy who's had 300 fights because they're fighting every weekend, and the training so relaxed and sensible. They're getting so many fights, but they might have lost as many as they've won, but they get matched accordingly to that. So it's not about that guy's 320, so he needs to fight another guy who's that. It's like, no, it just goes by experience. And so their losses don't matter to them. So they're fighting every other week. Oh, I lost this weekend, right, I'm going to fight again next weekend and win. And that's the way it should be. That's like a martial arts way, you know what I mean? I think it's pretty cool, but the conception of everyone else who's watching fights is fucking crazy. That, as I say about the amount of people seeing Billy Joe as a quitter, it was like, mad.
I think not to take a dig, right? And I don't really want to go into this too much because I know we're time bound on this one a small bit. But I mean, I used to sort of, that's the common thing to think, but I think it's reinforced by alcohol, really, because I on a previous podcast I was saying to Simpa, I was like, I love football, you know, I love sports, especially when I'm baked or whatever, because I just see all the intricacies and stuff like that. And I go, fucking hell, you know, with football, you see all of the collective movement and all that kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But it's like I started shouting at the telly in the opposite way, kind of go like, if somebody's been fucking useless, I can be paid 500 fucking grand a week and be fucking useless and let 7 goals in. No problem. Just give us a shout. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. That was a joke anyway. I wasn't.
No. I know exactly what you mean, for sure. And especially when you're emotionally invested in it as well. That kind of comes into it as well, doesn't it? When, like, say, for instance, like Sunderland, for instance, like the team I support, it's like fucking heartbreak every other week, and it's like, these guys are fucking shit. He's making a fucking fortune, you know. My granny could do that, and she's fucking dead. You know what I mean? Like that kind of shit. I know what you mean. It's I don't know. It's probably just a lot of his, obviously, maybe being a fighter as well, and then seeing a fighter and understanding what goes into it. Because in that sense, it's all on that one guy, you know. Your team loses, fucking, it's a collective loss, you know. And then the next week they've got another match where it's a fighter, you know. Deep down, you know, it's all on that one guy, saying, you know what, time away from that guy's family he's had. He's starved himself for weeks. It's cost him money to fucking pay for his camp. It's cost him money for his diet, and how invested he is in himself. So that's kind of maybe why it feels a bit more kind of, it's more passionate for me. I don't know, maybe I'm a bit more emotionally invested in that kind of way. I don't know.
You're more informed. And I think that's the difference. Is the idiot sat on the couch that, he's invested in Man United because I grew up here and I've supported all my life. Mm-hmm. But they're not thinking of the training. They're not thinking of the youth academy. They're not thinking of the scouts. They're not thinking of all of the multitude of everything else. The full-time job that goes into that 90 minutes.
Yeah, to be that 1% of people who made it through all them academies, through all them teams, to be the 1% that actually made the team. You know what I mean? The time, the weekends with the mates, they've missed the holidays, the lads trips away, the fucking christenings and birthdays and all that shit. You know what I mean? It's
they don't even play in the Sunday League. Try playing in the Sunday League. You get your fucking ankles broken. You'll see how quickly you fucking Joe. Because one thing that the TV does, it I think it masks. Back in the day, right? It used to mask, like, or it used to sort of put on pounds, you know, because the perspective was off. Well, I think it masks speed. Or I think it really fucking does. You miss that little bit of, you know, unless you're there and you see it in that moment. Like, you think, oh fucking hell! Look at the touch on that football. Man's taking. he can take 3 or 4 touches within that split second or whatever, and you try it on a Sunday, and it's like within a half a second your man's up on fucking top of you, like, you know, that kind of way.
Your fucking nose is bursting.
I think there's a thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is to do with confidence and sort of knowledge of a subject. So people that have very limited knowledge of it typically have confidence in the subject because they think that, I know this much and the subject's only this wide.
Yeah.
Then the more information you gain of a subject, your confidence falls off a cliff until you get to a point of kind of, I've grasped this. And most people are not aware that they're suffering from this in every facet of their lives. They know their job. They know a couple of TV shows that they've obsessed over. They may know some bits of like a football team or something. It's very limited bits of information, but the rest of it, the general population just kind of goes, I can do that. Hold my beer kind of mentality. You know what I mean? And they don't, again, because they don't see it. The TV and the way media and everything, we're almost told that this is what the world is. If it's not on the screen, if it's not being talked about en masse, it doesn't exist. And people can't then see the strings as well. They can't see everything else. They can't see the depth of this. Yeah. As you said, ultimately, the sacrifice of choosing, because you do it for you, but you're also an entertainer at the end of the day. So there are fans. There is a whole following of people that are then hanging on this to the point of, as you said, they can scream and shout and smash it. Oh, what are you doing? They are that invested into it because they're living vicariously. Yeah. So whether they recognize it or not, they can think, oh, he's a pussy, he did this or that or whatever else. They're still not recognizing that it's them. It's them. It's not the other person. It's they've ascribed this value to them. They've ascribed this token thing out there of going, well, I'm like this. You see it with massively with who we weren't mentioning before that Maka mentioned the name of then people like the personality, the caricature of it. So then people want to emulate that. So then when that falls from the pedestal, people hate on it hard because they're like, oh, I've dressed like this, I've acted like this, I move like this now. And people then feel a bit of almost disgust at the fact that they've allowed themselves to be someone else rather than being themselves. And I think it's that juxtaposition that makes them angry of going, you've disappointed me. And they can't then follow the next step and go, but wait, what does that mean? That means that I've put some value into you that you shouldn't be actually doing. You're doing your shit. I'm lucky enough to watch it. So I should be grateful for that experience.
Fucking awesome way to put it, mate. For sure. Like, that's literally nail on the head. You know, as I was saying to you before, I think I might have mentioned in this, it's like most people probably don't even get to the stage of what you said there about that cliff. And it's kind of what I was saying about jiu-jitsu. You know, I feel like it's like the more you actually learn, the more you realize you don't know. You know what I mean? It's like fucking, you think you're getting somewhere and then you're like, shit, there's like, where I thought I was we head here and actually I'm fucking here, and then this guy's there, and it's like, well, fucking hell, what does that mean, that guy? You know? And when you hear it in people say there's levels to and there's so there is, you know what I mean? And it's like most people don't even get to the gates of going up the cliff. You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? So it's but I really like the analogy you used there. It was awesome, Simpa. It was really good.
He's good at that kind of thing, you know. That's his fucking fighting.
Well, exactly that. Everyone has a passion, and this is what I can't understand with people that'll then look at what you do and then be, and they're then again projecting their insecurities or their worldview or their misinformation and warped version of reality onto you. And I hope that, as I've said, that a lot of my audience, I think, would already get and be accepting of other sort of sports and worldview. But I hope then for the few that wouldn't have, that will have hopefully made it this far through this podcast, will have really got an insight as to what it is to be an athlete in your field, and to really the sacrifices and the things that you kind of have to go through to arrive at a position like where you are fortunate enough to be at. So I just want to say thank you very much for coming on. We've completed our swapcast now, but I'm sure we'll be doing others in the future. I very much want to get back to your studio, and hopefully in the future, me and Maka will be setting up something physical. So hopefully we'll all be able to chong together next time.
Definitely. Or as I say, if Mac is ever up, mate, the two of you come over and we'll have a blaze on in the studio and we'll film some shit. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, sounds great fun.
Yes, well, mate, I was meant to say this the other day. I'm glad we've came back on because I forgot. I've been given a load of shit for obviously podcasts, weed podcasts. So I thought I'd mention it. I've been given a lot of nutrients and a lot of fucking fantastic shit there that I'm going to give away on my podcast soon. So I'll keep you in touch about how to do that, but it's a fucking big chunk of stuff to be won there, and I'm just going to give it away to someone. So I'll do a little whichever obligations it is to enter, I'll get everyone in a list, and I'll just fucking do one of them random picky things, and I'll pick it.
Nice.
Fucking that, like.
Yeah. Well, we'll make sure to share that. We'll obviously be tagging Chin Spin Chats. I got it right that time. Down in the description below, and we'll make sure to share it on obviously all social media platforms as well. Cal, it's been a pleasure. Honestly, thank you very much, brother.
Anytime. Thank you.
Excellent. Right, folks, thank you very much. If you've enjoyed this, please do check us out on patreon.com/The Simpa Life. We are on all social media platforms at The Simpa Life. Check us out for kind of bi-weekly, if not irregular, lives on a Thursday. We'll be back next week with another fantastic guest. I just wanted to shout out our new listeners in Australia and Canada, actually. So we're going global. We're going worldwide. So thank you very much, folks. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'll check you later. I've been Simpa. He's been Macca. And that's been the wonderful gentleman, Cal. Peace.
See ya. Bye.